4 in the morning, you got me up, all cause you need to talk. To 4 in the evening, wanna break up, say that you've had enough. I'm tired of talking, again and again, argue about everything. You are my darling, this kiss and make up, I know you wanna touch. You call me every night, call me every day, I just wanna get you alone now. Trust me when I say, we gon' be okay, we just gotta boom bada boom ba. I don't wanna fight, you know that I'm right, baby let me talk to your body. We gon' be okay, hear me when I say.
What happens to young men and old men when the doors that were once closed now become open, where they see the opportunities that they now have outside of the United States? I've told you guys in the past that world travel is one of the great equalizers to helping a man become optimized. And world travel is a great optimizer because it helps men to see that other customs and traditions are not more or less parallel to some of the negative toxicity that we have here in the United States. Being here with my friend Al Grease and Frustrated 3 that should be coming out soon, we are talking about the toxic nature of some American and more or less Western women. And because of that, Al Grease coined a term called eating out of the trash can. And eating out of the trash can appears to sometimes prevent men from obtaining the best outcomes that they can get because their minds have not been degreased. In this show, we're going to explore the dynamics of some young American expats and some quick narratives by Al Grease as we talk about the dynamics of black men traveling abroad, but also black men getting the outcomes they need because they have been impacted in a negative way. Now, I want you guys to remember this. If it ain't 7, it ain't kosher. If it ain't kosher, it ain't right. There are 7 steps that a man must go through in order to become optimized. And world travel, once again, is the great equalizer to help men make the outcomes and choices that are better for them long term. Be well and enjoy the content. All right. Greetings to the family as I bring it to you live from Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. I've had an awesome time talking to some expats. I've had an awesome time talking to young men that are millennials and Xennials that are exploring their options outside the contextual framework of America. I decided to do this show, guys, because I'm dedicated to the process while most will be relaxing and resting. I felt it was necessary to give you guys quality content while I'm overseas in South America. I want guys to realize and understand that world travel is the great equalizer. And it's the great equalizer because it helps older men, young men, and middle-aged men to see the outcomes and the things that they can get to become better versions of themselves. So many of you young men are suffering from mental health issues because some of you were raised in single-parent homes. You were not seen or given the power and the tools to know that you are valued and that you are worthy. And because of that, some of you guys have been eating out of the trash can. And eating out of the trash can is a euphemism that's more or less due to lack of having cognitive modification. And that cognitive dissonance is also tied to having a negative schema. A schema is a fixated pattern in the mind of many men and women, but on the flip side, it's a fixated schema because many times men see themselves as less than in America. And unfortunately, some of our women see themselves as being better. And I use this show as anecdotal evidence to more or less correlate and convey the intricacies of why so many men are beginning to travel abroad. I met this young man by the name of Kamal, I think it's International Kamal, and he was talking about world travel and what world travel means to him. And in a few minutes, we're going to, take the time to explore some of the intricacies of why he's decided to do world travel and what world travel means to him as it relates to relationships. So many of you young men and older men are living beneath your privilege. And listen, we're not saying that traveling abroad is the great elixir to getting a quality woman. Women at their base or core are all the same, guys. You know that. But what we're saying is that when you travel abroad, you're dealing with women that were raised more or less in patriarchal cultures where family is important. The safeguards that many Western women have, they don't have. And they have the need to hold on to their man because they understand if they don't, then they will be left alone. The sad thing is here in Brazil is this. Many women don't have the proper safeguards that modern American women have. While Rio is very modernized, many of the women here don't have the safeguards. And sadly, many of the men don't take care of their kids here as well. Some of the men don't take care of their kids and, some actually leave. And I think that's why to the single men that are listening, traveling abroad is a great option because those women are really into family. And then when they see Black American men, they have an interconnection because many times there's such thing as colorism in Brazil. And also because of structural classism, many times those people are honored to see people that look like them and actually support them. I'm going to play a clip by this young man that I met when I was at Christ the Redeemer, when I was with one of the fellow BMO brothers, and we went out to see Christ the Redeemer. And I saw the young man, and I wanted to take the time to interview him because it was amazing seeing a young expat. I think he's a millennial, about 36, and his YouTube channel is called Global Mall. And he talked about some of the things that he's been going through, guys, where being with a woman is never enough. He's a truck driver. He has his own business, but it's never enough. So I want you guys to listen to this. Let's get your input from this show that I did with him while I was at Copacabana. And I want you guys to tell me what you think about what this man is saying and why it's so important that men start to love themselves and not allow themselves to be pigeonholed by mediocrity. So hold on, guys. And why the six that are listening, please share the content, like, share, and subscribe. Share the content, and we're gonna have a conversation in a minute. So hold tight, guys. I got something for you. Hold tight. Let me share this content. We're gonna open this screen in a minute, and we're gonna have a discussion. And then I want you guys to give me some input about what you think this brother is saying, and we can have a quick call in while abroad, and we can talk about the things that we see as well. So hold tight as I open this.
Whenever you're ready,
all right, this is Global Mall. This is Global Mall, guys. Hold tight. And we're going to hold tight. Let me exit the screen out real quick. All right, there we go. I'll make you on my YouTube channel. How many fans you on your channel?
That's a start.
You just start. Okay, that's fine.
You take the mic off.
No, you good.
Yeah,
All right, whenever you're ready,
so what's your name again?
My name is Jamal. Everybody calls me Global Mo.
All right, got my man Jamal, Global Mo. This young expat, this young bloke is traveling all the way from Miami. And once again, guys, I told you there are 7 steps that a man must go through to become optimized. And this young man is a key example of why world travel is so important. Once again, I'm traveling solo. I came with BMO last year, but for the most part, I'm doing activities by myself and me and my man Clay. Introduce yourself, brother, and tell the young men that are listening why world travel is so important and what it's done to you mentally.
Well, I'm Global Mo. I'm from Miami, Florida. I love traveling the world. It changed my life. I cannot stay in America. I just love it outside America. There's no place like it. The cost of living is cheaper. The women are beautiful. And there's a lot of things to do. And I like to explore the world. I just got a passion for traveling the world, and I just can't stop.
Right. When did you start this adventure, brother? What made you get to the point of wanting to leave the confines of America to see a better picture? What got you into this desire to travel? What experiences were you going through?
Well, I always used to watch the Travel Channel when I was younger, and I said one day when I start making some money, I'm gonna start traveling the world. And ever since, I've been doing it since 2018, and I never stopped since then. Now I'm doing it at a consistent basis where I'm going every month, and I just love it. I love doing it, and I enjoy it.
What do you say to the critics that say that American Black men don't get love and respect, or you're seeing this negative? What's your take on that, based on your experience of traveling Brazil, traveling the DR, traveling Colombia, traveling to Africa? What's been your experience of how they treated you as an American Black man?
Well, they treat me very well outside the country. I actually love being outside of the country because I don't really experience racism. I don't even know if there's racism outside of America because they treat me nice, they treat me fair. I never had an issue with nobody, and I actually feel safe outside of it.
Now listen, guys, this was a live interview that I had with Global Mall. I met this brother at Christ the Redeemer statue, met him at Christ the Redeemer. And he's giving you guys a keen example of why men are traveling abroad to get better outcomes. As she said in this poignant interview that I did with him, it's not that we don't love American Black women, but sadly, many of the men feel they're not getting the outcomes that they desire for long-term relationship and for wives. This young man is a business owner. He owns 3 trucks. But unfortunately, he had to travel abroad because so many of the women in Miami, where he lives, he said, are very toxic. And also, they're not traditional as it relates to getting the kind of things he wanted in a woman. Keep listening.
America. I'd rather be outside of the country because I ain't have to worry about the police doing something bad to me. And everybody just shows love, and there's a lot of genuine people out here.
Yeah. What were some of the struggles that you had with not only being a black man in America, but also with relationships? What issues did you have, and how did it impact you mentally as a young man?
So relationships as far as women?
Well, yeah, as far as women, like dating women and what?
Oh, when it comes to dating, like, the women definitely treat you better outside of America. I love international women, especially Brazilian women. I recommend all black men come to Brazil. It's the best place to find your wife because they're genuine and they're beautiful women. I'm telling you, you won't go wrong by finding your wife here in Brazil.
Right.
That's why I'm looking for mine.
You're looking for your wife here?
Yeah,
now, let's be real. You know and I know that universal women are the same way. And so, guys, I want you guys to understand that traveling abroad is powerful. Brazilian women are not just in, Brazilian women, like African-American women, have African roots. During the transatlantic slave trade, many of the slaves that came abroad actually came through Brazil first, and then they came to America. So to the critics to say that, Brazilians are not black, they're very much black. I would say more black than some Americans, and they're very, what I call heterozygous people. They're an admixture of Indian, African, and white. But there are many black Brazilians, and they actually show American blacks a lot of love and respect. Shout out to my man, Uncle Stu on the block. Shout out to Patrice Garner. Guys, thank you for listening while I bring it to you live from South America. I'm actually in South America right now. And I've decided to take this trip and this tour because I said that there are 7 steps that a man must go through in order to become optimized. And also, conversely, this celebrates or commemorates the life and the death of one of the expats that traveled abroad, Charles Tyler. But I decided to do this show because I want to let men know that they can get outcomes that are sustainable if they believe in themselves. They don't have to suffer from mediocrity. And, the women here are different. They are conditioned to honor and serve the men because they don't have the proper safeguards. But family and tradition is very important to Afro-Latin people. So keep listening, guys. This is a good show. Wherever you go. But how are the women here different? Because most women abroad want, everyone wants protection, provision, and maintenance. But how are Brazilian women different than American women, in your opinion?
Man, look, the women overseas, especially Brazil, they treat you like a king. Like, it's certain things you ain't got to ask a woman to do. It's just their nature, the human nature to do it. Like, cook your dinner, wash.
And listen to this guy. Listen to what he's saying. The things that this man is talking about 40, 50 years ago, women understood that was necessary in order to get a husband. Women that I heard, like my grandma, and what I saw is that they would cook pies and cakes to attract the man because they knew that they had to come into a relationship willing to serve. I decided to create this new series called The Degreasing of the American Male. And Al Grease is one of the guys that started this movement with Frustrated 1, 2, and 3, which will be coming out soon. I'll be in that movie with Dr. Ron Neal. And we decided, I decided to use the term degrees because as a clinical therapist, many men need to be degrees because a degreaser is similar to erasing the stain or toxic. And many feel that America has become toxic when it comes down to finding traditional women that come in ready to serve. And because of that frustration, many men are suffering in silence because they don't know what their worth is. And so it's come to the point that American men like Kamal, Global Mall, he's traveling abroad. He's looking for women that more or less give him the best chance to be not only successful, but meet his requirements as a man. Now, listen, guys, and I know that in the past, that in order for a woman to get a husband, she had to come to the table wife ready and ready to serve her man. And the exchange that she got was a man that provided, protected, loved her, and died for her. But as I said in the past, that in fair exchange, there is no robbery. And so many men are tired of being robbed by some of the narcissistic traits that we see here in America. And we're not saying that there are not some narcissistic men either, but because this channel is a men's channel, I've taken upon myself to highlight those key points that are necessary to help our men become the better versions of themselves. And I'm telling you, young men, millennials, Xennials, and also Gen X men, when you travel abroad, you begin to see the world from a different angle. It doesn't mean that people abroad are not humans. They have issues too. But people in this country work very hard for their money. So therefore, they value family and they value their men. Sadly, some of our women have been empowered to be depowered, and they don't respect men, and therefore some don't see our men as being valuable. And because of that, a lot of men are suffering from affection deprivation. Keep listening.
Wash your clothes, or just just check on you, rub your feet. You know what I'm saying? Everything a man, a king, should have.
Right,
You know what I'm saying? So definitely get you a woman from overseas. No disrespect to American women, but I'm just saying, like the women overseas, they just treat you better.
So it sounds like to me that women abroad have been more conditioned to not see cooking a meal as a slave.
Right.
So cooking a man a meal is just normal here in Brazil.
Correct.
Now, you could pass for an Afro-Brazilian. You're reddish brown. Do most of the natives assume that you're a Brazilian?
Yes, if I don't say nothing or open my mouth, they'll think I'm just right here. They'll think I'm from right here. I promise you. Like outside the tourist areas, all you see is us. And I heard, I believe that outside of Africa, Brazil is like the biggest African population in the world outside of Africa.
Yes, sir.
And I can definitely tell that because, like I said, when I step outside of the tourist area, all I see is my people of color. So I definitely recommend you brothers come out here and get you a fine black queen because they're here.
So between the countries that you travel, young brother, the countries you travel, what countries would you recommend for the women that are more traditional in your opinion? Would you say Brazilians? Would you say Colombians? Would you say Africans? What countries would you say tend to make you feel more closer to being a man?
I'm gonna say Brazilian number 1 and Colombia number 2. Because it's a lot of people of color in Colombia also, like Cali. You might want to check that out, Cali, Colombia. And like I say, they got the Cali curves over there, if you know what I mean. So you might want to check that out also. All right. Brazilian number 1.
So have you been to Africa yet?
I haven't been to Africa. We're actually going to Africa the end of December.
Africa, no doubt. So once again, tell the audience what your name is and tell them your YouTube channel, bro.
My name is Global Mall. I'm from Miami, Florida. You can find my YouTube channel, Global Mall, or you can follow me on Instagram, Global_Mall. Thank y'all.
No doubt. Once again, guys, we got my man Global Mall. We bring it to you live from Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, up in the mountains, the Cristo the Redeemer. And once again, guys, the world is yours. This young man is a living example. Much love and blessing. I'll be back in the States soon, but I told you guys I'm going to still be filming while I was up here. Salute and be well, guys.
Thank you.
Hey.
So that's just a small excerpt of why men are traveling abroad. You heard it. You heard what this young man is saying. And so to the guys that are listening, I want you guys to give me some input. It's about 12 people watching. I know it's late, but I want to be a man to my word. But to the 12 people that are listening, I want you guys to give me some input to what you think about what this young man said. And has the conditions gotten so bad within the confines of America that many young men are actually beginning to travel abroad to get women that are more or less suitable to their mental health as a man? You know, my friend El Guapo said that women are feminine amplifiers, and he's correct. And I coined that, or more or less parroted that, by saying they're also feminine oscillators. And when a woman is oscillating in her femininity, it helps a man to become the better version of himself. As I said before in the past, it's not that black men don't love black women. They do. But unfortunately, some of the behaviors of our women in America are not conducive to good relationships. And because of that, many men are beginning to travel abroad to explore their options because they need to explore their options as women explore their options. And they're looking for women that are more suitable and also traditional. They don't have an underlying agenda. Al Grease, once again, I said, talked about living out of the trash can. And so to the men that are listening and the women, how do you guys more or less give credence to what this young man is saying? If you believe what he's saying is true, I want you guys to hit 1. If you think he's overreacting or overgeneralized, I want you to hit 2. But nonetheless, this show actually adds credence to what many men are actually saying and why many men are beginning to travel abroad. To the 14 that are listening, please hit all notification buttons. Please share the content. Share it with at least 5 or 6 people. Share it. And help this channel get to 1,000 people. Thank you, Patrice. Thank you, Huey Van Diver. Thank you, Mika J. He said he did Ghana in August, and I can testify to the femininity, no doubt, brother. Thank you, Fabian Scott. Thank you, guys. Thank you. And I've always wanted to visit here. Yes, Patrice, yeah, Brazil is a beautiful place. A lot of Afro-Brazilians. You have to be careful. There's a lot of poverty here. In some parts, there's poverty. But overall, Brazil is a very modernized city. The people work hard. Actually, the malls look better than some of the malls here. So that's part of it. Now, what I'm going to also do, guys, because I'm going to get some input from you guys, but I'm also going to add a show that I did with Al Grease when I first did the first show called The Degreasing of America. And once again, degrees mean to modify your thoughts. It means similar In the clinical term, we call it clinical modification, but I use it as a catch-all phrase to talk about the degreasing of the American mind. And many minds need to be degreased. Shout out to my man, Aaron Ferris. Him and I did an awesome show that will be produced at some point. Aaron Ferris is the purveyor of his group called Black Men Travels. Aaron Ferris has a group called Black Men Travels, and he too have been in Medellin, Colombia. Him and I chopped it up in Barra, Tijuca. And we talked about, we had a powerful documentary, a powerful interview about why men are traveling abroad and how men, once they get their passport, can see what their work is. So I want you guys to listen to this show. We're going to pause from time to time to critique what Al was saying and also what the other brothers are saying. So hold tight, guys.
My man Chris. What's up, Chris? Of course, my man. Yeah, Aaron. What's up, Aaron? If I read correctly, I saw where you had actually moved out to Colombia.
Yeah, I've been here 9 months.
9 months. Congrats on that, man. Congrats on that, man. You live my dream. That's my dream. Get the fuck up out of here. All time, man. So congratulations on that, man. It's good to see you brothers again, man. You asked me the question, what's wrong with them?
Right, what's wrong with them? You know, it's traveling abroad a way to degrees, no pun intended, the toxicity of modern women. Go ahead, brother.
I'll speak on my circles, you know, from the circles and stuff I travel, my interaction with them. It's not all of them.
It's not all of them, right?
Some of them, man, that been raised correctly, and a lot of them been raised by single moms and passed that toxic shit on to their kids,
right?
And all that shit, and promote that negative stereotyping about being independent and you don't need this, you don't need that, you don't need that, which turns off their feminine energy and makes them more masculine. So most of the time.
And guys, here's the crazy thing. This young man actually was born in a single parent home where he didn't have his father. And what happens, guys, when men that are born in single parent homes, they don't know how to adequately broker power. Masculine men that are not simps in marriage, because, you know, some of these men in marriages are weak. And I would say that a child with a man in a marriage that does not exude or personify masculinity is probably worse off than a boy being in a single parent home where he didn't have his father. Because what they're doing, they're giving this boy a negative outlook of what true masculinity is. True masculinity never broke his power if it's not benefiting him and his mission. As too many young men have learned to broker power, which in essence makes them unconscious simps. And unconscious simp is a psychological term that I use to add to the urban term called simp. I did not create the word simp, but I did create from a clinical perspective called the unconscious simp. So keep listening.
And they trying to put that masculine energy on you. If you run across any alpha males or any dudes straight up, that's a turn off from the beginning. That energy don't hit right. So I'm gonna discard you right away. And as I got older, and I see the conflict and trying to deal with that, man, and winding up in the justice system and filling out paperwork and trying to play the other side of the story, it wasn't worth it. It wasn't worth it for me, and it was just beneficial to me. Once I got that my freedom papers, aka that passport. Once I got my freedom papers, man, and was able to travel freely around the planet, I took advantage of that. And when I ran a course with women with feminine energy, let me turn the phone on. Women had, feminine energy that I was attracted to, and it was easy to.
So the question that I want to ask many of you men that are listening, also women, to the good sisters that are listening, do you guys feel that American women are feminine? Do you feel like American women know how to exude true femininity? And if they don't know how to exude true femininity, how much of a role do you think it plays on the mental health of a man? So if you feel like modern women actually exude femininity, I want you guys to press 1 to the 13 that are listening. But if you feel like they don't exude femininity, I want you to press 2. And so I'm gonna keep playing this clip, and then we're gonna have a conversation at some point. Keep listening, guys.
Connect with them, and it was easy to embrace it and easy to get along with them. They wasn't so much combative. So that's been my experience, man. And I've been preaching that from the mountaintop, screaming, get your passports, travel, brothers, get up out of here, because you get a whole new different experience instead of dealing with somebody who's constantly combative with you and not in agreement with you, and the energy is off. So when the energy is off and they combative and you put in that kind of situation, that could lead to, messing up your freedom. You see now with the new laws and domestic violence and restraining orders, how that can affect your employment once you get that going, because you didn't have to do anything. She could just call, and now that's messing your employment up for years down the line when you go for looking to climb the corporate ladder or whatever the situation may be, and they go back in your file. So, hey man, you got this. You got this in your file. So, oh man, that was just a little dispute I had with Shorty. It had nothing to do with that. They tell you, I'm sorry, I can't. We're gonna have to decline on this one, man, because you got this stuff in paperwork. So I find it beneficial, man. Just get your passport, and I ran across like-minded brothers, and we get to travel, man. We have a ball, and that's my enjoyment right there.
No doubt, no doubt. Now listen, guys, if you like the show, please donate to $7 Smalls. Also donate to PayPal. And if you don't have any money, guys, share this content with my man Al Grease and Aaron Ferris of Black Man's Travel. Aaron Ferris, you're from the sunny city of Atlanta. And Al Grease and I had a conversation about the dichotomy, because you will assume that women in the South are actually icons of femininity. I want you to talk about your experience being in Atlanta, and then the difference that you've seen once you traveled abroad to Brazil and Colombia.
Well, the thing about Atlanta, I went through some drastic changes, like I would say, starting late 90s to early 2000s. Back in the day, I'll be honest with you, I did grow up with Southern belles, like women,
right,
from the 80s and early 90s, but they cooked, they cleaned, they worked. We had some good, solid women, especially growing up, around the church area. And things just really started to change a lot. I think after the go to college movement, a lot of them started to become a little bit more independent. And, they wanted to kind of live a life of, you had shows like Sex in the City that kind of motivated a lot of women to start to try to, be independent, get corporate jobs, and just kind of do their thing. And I think that was like kind of like the end of the beginning of everything, in my opinion, man, because it really changed. And what also didn't help was Atlanta became a transplant city. So when women from DC, New York started coming down there, buying houses and moving the way they was moving, that also motivated women to kind of go their own little route of the independence. Because when I was growing up, man, most of the women worked at small jobs, Walmarts, grocery stores, just little jobs, teachers, assistants, nurses. It wasn't like the master's degrees that you have today. Like, they wasn't forced to go. So they really needed a man, and most guys had blue-collar jobs. So that was the setup in the South for the most part. But like I said, it was a drastic change, and I've seen that with my own two eyes. I went from dating women that would come to your house, cook, clean, take care of you. That was the norm in Atlanta, to women like not doing anything for you, bro. Like, it was just a drastic change. So I decided to go ahead. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna tell you exactly what happened. I was on YouTube one day, and I found one of Charles Tyler videos, and I ended up joining the group. Then I ended up watching Frustrated, and I said, you know what? These guys might be on to something. I said, you know what? I'm gonna try it out. Now, the funny thing about my situation was, when I was telling a lot of the guys, like in the barbershops, that I'm going to Brazil, they was like, nah, don't go. All the women got AIDS. It's super violent. They're going to kidnap you. They're going to torture you.
And see, guys, that's part of the toxicity that many have when they decide to travel abroad. Unfortunately, some will try to deter them for world travel. Listen, anywhere you go, there are problems and there are issues. But from what I've seen from an anecdotal perspective, talking to some of the native Brazilians, especially the men, they more or less talk about how culture here is different, and how the women here are a lot more agreeable, but also cooperative with the men. Shout out to Patrice Garner. She says that I'm a traditional older woman that grew up very feminine, by the way. I was raised. She said, now I do see a big difference with the generation of women. Patrice, I would love to have your input after we explore the dynamics from the show with the brothers for the Passport crew, Aaron Ferris and also Al Grease. All right, hold tight, guys. Keep listening.
I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, you know what? They might be right. So at the last minute, I almost pulled out. But, I started looking more at Charles Tyler, more the social media, the Facebook group. I said, these guys look like they having fun. They look like they safe. I don't think nothing's bad happening to them. So that motivated me to travel to Brazil. And then when I got to Brazil, man, it was total culture shock. I've never seen so many beautiful women that, you know, their whole mentality was way more feminine and more submissive, man. So yeah, I'm a generation that actually seen the change of, in my opinion, the downfall of women.
Shout out to one master teacher. Shout out, brother. And listen, if you're looking at some point, let's do a collaboration. I've heard good things about you and you traveling abroad. And perhaps you, Deacon Aaron Spencer.
Got his book right here.
Yes, sir. My man, Al Grease. We can all do it. And see, guys, here's the sad thing. A man should never have to broker femininity because many of our women don't expect men to broker masculinity. A man should never have to broker to get a woman to comply and to respect him as a man. I think what a lot of our women don't understand is that when they work with their men to build and love and honor them, they often get the outcomes that they really want. Men by nature are very simple creatures. We just want to be loved, given affection, and also we want a woman that can help us become the better versions of ourselves, which most times looks like cooperation. But there's a dirty word that causes many men and women to have what's called a schema affliction. That schema affliction is a fixated mindset that a lot of our women struggle with because they think submission means a slave. But submission really is a duality. There are many connotations for the word submission, but when you look at the dictionary and when you look at the synonyms, one of the synonyms to submission is to agree. It means to agree. And so in a relationship, in order to have what's called symmetry, there must be congruence, but also the man and the woman must agree. When a man and woman come together to do sex, they are actually agreeing because it's a form of cooperation. That woman submits to that man when she is intimate with him. But unfortunately, a lot of our women tend to associate the word submission with like he's a tyrant or an overlord and she doesn't have a voice. And because of that, women don't understand that their true power actually is in their femininity and submission. We're not saying submit to abusive, violent men. But I will tell women this, that in this country abroad, women in South America actually will love American men because American men are very kind, they're very genteel, they're very agreeable. Actually, to the point that sometimes they're not seen as masculine because we've been conditioned to see ourselves as less. And so to the women that haven't traveled abroad, you begin to see how blessed you are by being in another country, because in these countries, it's totally different. Femicide is real in Colombia and in some parts of Brazil. And, I think you guys would be grateful that if you saw the kind of how men really act and how women really desire men that also show them love and romance. From my experience, a lot of women say that a lot of men don't even show romance and many are very violent. So guys, a lot of you guys got it made and you don't even know it. So keep listening. Hold tight. For collaboration, shout out to one master teacher. Check out my email at kosherclinician@gmail.com, one master teacher. That's kosherclinician@gmail.com. Let's do a collaboration. Listen, guys, these shows are important because there's a crisis in the world. And Al Grease talked about the importance of the feminine vibration as it relates to elevating the masculinity of a man. In the past, I talked about there's a such thing called affection deprivation. And when a man is going through affection deprivation, he can have what's called a psychosomatic response. And that's a fancy way of saying that his mind and body is not calibrated or integrated. And when his mind and body is not calibrated or integrated, it can cause him to have what's called a schema affliction. So it's important that men have the proper women in place to help them become the best versions of themselves, like women of past. Deacon Eric Spencer coined the term called the fat meat is greasy. It's a Southern colloquialism that him and I both ran with. He's from the 252 and the 704, and I'm from the flat plains of North Carolina. But listen, Eric Grease, Deacon Eric Spencer. I want you to tell.
We all fatty. Don't worry about it.
Deacon Eric Spencer. He's the deacon of the group. I told you he is the deacon. He's the administrator. He's the president. Deacon Eric Spencer. Tell the audience why is the fat meat greasy, and tell the audience how Al Grease and Passport Game as a mechanism to help men degrease from the toxicity of modern women.
Okay, so let me just go into the fat meat greasy part. As you know, that is a saying, but a lot of that is attributed to somebody that doesn't believe something until they actually go through it. And a lot of women, black women, don't believe that they need their men.
Right.
But now the catching phrase is winter's coming, winter's here. All that stuff just coincides with the saying, the fat meat is greasy. Because now the men that you need, you've been talking bad about them, labeling them, mistreating them. And now those men, you say you don't need them. But now you coming up in a situation we're about to go through where you don't believe the fat meat is greasy until you get a hold of it. And a lot of them are finding out right now that all the stuff that they've been told back in the days, years, social media and whatnot isn't true. So that's where that saying comes from. And a lot of them are starting to realize that. You're starting to see a lot more uptick in social media about women being feminine, women being submissive and doing the traditional things that they did in the past. But it's a little too late because the scars have already been cast, and a lot of black men know that trick and they're not falling for it.
Right.
Okay. So as far as the second part, the toxicity, and you and I have talked about it on multiple occasions, is that there's a mental aspect of all this trauma that we're going through that men are dealing with. And when they go someplace like Brazil, Colombia, Thailand, Africa, and they experience real femininity, they also get a real look at the actual world and how things really are versus the illusion of America. Because the illusion here is you're supposed to accept subpar women. Now, not all, but let's be honest. You know, I grew up in the South too.
Guys, it's not just an illusion, but also it's a delusion. And it's a delusion because many feel that what they see is actually a reality or the truth as it relates to what a feminine woman should be. But in retrospect, it's not what a feminine woman should be. Feminine women help you become calm. They encourage you. They're like your cheerleader. Similar to what Teddy Pendergrass said, you inspire me. And many men just want a woman that's inspirational, a woman that's kind, a woman that will stroke his head or stroke his ego. And I know relationships have become toxic because men and women are working. But I say to the women that are listening, if you want a good man, you got to more or less recalibrate your thinking and go through therapy. And you can get the therapy through me at coachingclinician@gmail.com, where I give non-diagnostic clinical consultations to help you get the outcomes that you so need, as I am a licensed therapist. And so, you know, our women got to do a lot of the shallow work and feel and more or less be willing to take accountability for some of the things that they've done in relationships and how those struggles have impacted them in a negative way. Because Xennials and millennials and some Gen X men are beginning to give up with American relationships. And many guys are beginning to travel abroad with the understanding that women universally are the same, meaning they want provision, love, protection, and security. But there are some women that practice kosher hypergamy, which is fit and proper. But there are some women that practice exploitative hypergamy. And that's the worst type that you tend to see in America. We'll talk about that at some point. Hold tight. Keep listening, guys. Keep listening.
I saw the transition where my grandmother would cook my grandfather certain meals because that's what he wanted. Mm-hmm. He would cook. My grandmother would cook cube steak with gravy and macaroni cheese with fresh biscuits for breakfast. Mm. I asked my mother years ago, why are we having dinner at breakfast? And she would say, because your grandfather always wanted that type of meal for breakfast. So my grandmother cooked it. Now you have combative people that think that, well, you cooking me a meal is making you a slave. How is that a slave to cook a meal? Whereas when you go someplace overseas, they take pride and they cherish cooking that meal because they know that it's nourishing you to help you do what you need to do so both of you can make it in this life. You know, and the feminism here has made modern women in the States, Western women with that ideology, very toxic. Just like the woman in that clip, all that talking she did, her energy, it just came through. It's like, and she's delusional. She said she can go out here and get Tom, Hank, and Jimbo. Sweetheart, it's not gonna happen because Tom, Hank, and Jimbo ain't even dealing with they women. They women are catching hell. So what make you think you gonna come in and take their spot? You can't even maintain your spot.
Good point.
Chris Strongheart. If Al agrees as Batman, you gotta be Robin. you dealt with American or modern women, Chris Strongheart, and you know you're this young man, Chris Strongheart. He is a millennial. He's the personification of a millennial. Chris actually went through a divorce because he went through some of the toxicity that many men are experiencing, Xennials and millennials, but also Gen X men. And he went through some of the same struggles. And it's unfortunate because, like I said, many men want to be in healthy relationships, but sadly, they're not getting the outcomes that they want. Therefore, they're traveling abroad. So keep listening. Guys, if you're not donated, donate to $ Cash App 7 Smalls. Please donate to Cash App $ 7 Smalls. Thank you guys for listening. If you don't have anything to donate, please share the content. Help me grow this channel to 3,000. Keep this brand moving because many men are suffering in silence and we don't want that to happen, okay? Keep listening. I consider you a millennial or like you're close to Gen X, but you're more.
I'm definitely millennial.
You're a millennial. I want you to tell the audience why the fat meat is greasy and have you been degreased? But before you were degreased, share what you want to share with the public about the relationship that you had and what it did to your psyche as it relates to trauma. But then I want you to break it off and tell me how foreign women have been a benefit to Chris Strongheart.
Well, first off, shout out to everybody on the panel. You know what I'm saying? What's good, gentlemen? You know, like for me in my experience, man, it's been like it's been wild. But I'll definitely say that the girl in the video, like the stuff that she's talking about, as far as like, you know, somebody needs to handle her and somebody needs to, oh, y'all not strong enough to deal with us and stuff like that. It's just like, but we're not. You're not cattle, you know what I'm saying? Like y'all are women. We're not supposed to be dealing with you in that type of manner. It's just crazy to see how everybody's been talking about winter's coming, and sure enough, I mean, it's most certainly. I think winter's already here.
Right.
We're starting to see the collapse of a lot of stuff that a lot of these, you know, lovely ladies thought that they was going to be able to rely on, and that's not the case right now. I mean, and for me, you know, my past and my history, man, it's just been like, you know, the disrespect, you know, the masculine energy that you see that these young ladies are portraying out here. It's crazy, man, for real. But then countering that to going overseas, it's like night and day, man. You know, straight up. So going out there to Brazil, traveling around to different places, you know, like Colombia and all that different stuff, it's beautiful, bro. Like, I mean, if you, cause I'm saying, cause you'll hear, like Aaron Ferris said, you'll hear brothers try to say like, oh, you do that, bro. Don't travel. Don't go over there because they're gonna do this to you. They're gonna do that to you. But I say, don't let anybody tell you about a place that they haven't been there. If they haven't traveled, if they haven't seen what it's about, don't listen to them. All right, because everything that they're giving you is matrix programming. Okay, or matriarchal programming. Okay, you got the same things going on here to where they're trying to keep you locked in. That's why we call it the matrix in the first place. And then when you get that first taste of freedom, going outside of your borders, understanding what's going on out here in the world and all the options that you have. She talking about options like, you know what I'm saying, like Brad is gonna come pick her up. Ain't nobody finna come marry you. Cut that nonsense out. Ain't nobody finna come pick you up and marry you. Like, what is it? Brad, Enrique, Lee, they ain't coming to save you. Get that nonsense out of here. They're not coming to save you. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, oh, we got options too. Yeah, all right, so you want to have a battle of options? Let's see who wins, because you're going to wind up single and alone. You're going to be out there by yourself. And while brothers like us on the beach, you know what I'm saying, sitting back, sipping caipirinhas, you know what I'm saying, talk about, man, last night was wild, bro. Yeah, man, let's get back at it. You know what I mean? It's just like they don't know. They don't know. And we've seen some of them that try to come out there and spy on us too. We've seen that. Because I remember last time we were out there was a couple of them that was trying to like sit out there and spy. But the problem is they don't even realize that they stand out, because they'll sit out there on the beach looking.
And guys, that's one of the issues that many see. You know, I gave you guys firsthand evidence. I think some of you guys think when I do these shows, I'm just talking to hear myself talk. But I gave you a small anecdotal sample, and that anecdotal sample actually is a microcosm to a greater macrocosm that's actually growing. because the information is getting out. And Patrice, you're right. Patrice Gardner said, it saddens me that a lot of females of this generation say they don't want to get married, and some of them are single with children. And it's sad, Patrice, because children are at their best when they grow up in two-parent intact homes with strong masculine fathers. Not weak men, not weak, goofy men that are simps, but strong masculine men that love their women, that will die for their women, but at the same time will check their women and let their women know what this program is. And that was the norm back in the day. It was the norm, but unfortunately, a strong masculine man now is being seen as toxic. And we're raising the boys that so many women don't want. And it's unfortunate because the infrastructure to the Black community is actually, or appears to be dissipating. And it doesn't appear to be getting better anytime soon. When I've traveled to Rio and Copacabana, I've seen some poverty, guys. I've seen a lot of abject poverty, and I'm going to be doing another show at some point. But I've seen a lot of poverty, but at the same time, when I've done interviews with some of the men and women here, I was in my Uber, and the guy was telling me, he said that life in Brazil is hard, and the cost of living is very high. And, many of the men, as I said earlier in the show, actually leave their women. And so I think if some of our women would travel abroad and see what actually goes on in other countries, they would be a lot more grateful when it comes down to dealing with their men and trying to be more cooperative, because American Black men are very cooperative, very compliant, and deep down they really love our women. But sadly, our women a lot of times see them as less than, which leaves our men in a negative state of mind mentally.
Like this.
Hey, they'll get no play in Colombia, bro. None. Zero.
They be out there mad. They be mad at the world, and you just be looking over at them like, yeah, I told you, yeah. You know what I mean? So
they should be watching. I know because they should be watching. They should be watching how these women move out there. Don't watch me.
Yeah.
Don't watch me. Watch what I'm attracted to out there. So if you want me to be attracted to you, watch what I'm attracted to, and that'll stop me from traveling 5,000 miles away. I'll stay here local, which I don't think that's gonna happen. Oh, lady said the fat meat is greasy. Yeah. And I'm on a diet. I'm on a diet. You see how the lean dog eat? See that? Yeah. I'm getting ready for fighting. I'm getting back in my fighting weight. And yeah, man. It's sad. It's sad too, man, because I come from a large family. Knew my grandparents. You see the whole family structure and watch that deteriorate all the way down because you can't get along with your counterpart. You can't get along with your counterpart. And if you look at other races in America, we ain't got to reinvent the wheel. You just go look how the Asians get along with they women. You can look at how the Caucasians get along. And it's crazy though. I got some cool partners, man, that just got cool with it, and they're from Muslim faith. And when they see a young lady out there that's in her mid-20s who's not married or whatever, they go hook them up right away because it ain't right for her to be out there by herself. And they hook her up. Boom. There go your husband. And then you go ahead and then you go on and start your family from there. So I chopped it up with him. I said, man, y'all don't hit the club, you don't party. That's a waste of time and money. You got to start your family off right. And if you got somebody single, you know, a little dude, got a young dude, your cousin, family member, they go find them right away to go get married. And they both in agreement with. They in agreement. She know her role. He know his. He got to go out there and produce. She got to take care of the kids and the family. She got to be submissive. And he know he got to be masculine, protect his family, and he got to go out there and produce. And boom, and they go from there. And they cut out all the bullshit and dating. And she got 2-3 kids when you meet her already, and she wants you to step in and take care of Ray and them. And you got to deal with the whole mama.
And see, guys, for some of our women that are listening, especially a lot of our young Black women, I'm not against a woman getting her career. I think careers are actually awesome, but at the end of the day, the only thing that's going to matter is family. If we believe in family, family is one of the 7 steps that men and women must go through, but mostly men in order to become optimized. And when women begin to understand the importance of family, because the global economy is changing, we'll be going to automation at some point. It's actually proliferating. They're going to see the importance of family. Many jobs that were here prior the bug virus never came back. And I think it's paramount that many of our women start teaching their daughters to not, look for careers as much as they should look for a family. I'm not against a career, but if family is important, you should make your family a priority with your career being on the back burner, because you can always get a career, but you can't always get a family. And women have a certain time before their time actually elapses when it comes down to children. You know, doesn't mean that she can have a children later in life, but it's not ideal. Keep listening.
Baby daddy issues and all that shit there. And nowadays, most guys are not stepping into that. I don't recommend that at all.
But I'll tell you one thing though, Coach. I'm gonna have to piggyback off what you're saying, because what you're describing is a culture. See what I'm saying? Like in the video before, she said, I understand why other races or cultures don't want to necessarily intermingle or mix with black. How she was talking about. We don't have a culture in that context. See, people get race and culture confused. Culture is what really gives you that standing on as like a political backing. Your culture is what really holds that together. This is why these different countries are able to thrive and survive. And also why we like it so much down in Brazil is because the Brazilian culture. We know that every single girl that we have seen down in Brazil, we could definitely say that, yeah, there are IG models that will kill her as far as looks. But when you get near her and you talk to her, you'll see like, oh, I can't, her energy is completely off. Their energy comes from their culture. Right. And that's what we lack. That's why I say suppose black community. That's why I talk about that, because you have to think about it. They say stay away from black because they're saying, what are you marrying into? See what I'm saying? We come in our background, now this is the thing I say is that a lot of what we have picked up came from what we were taught in slavery as far as our culture. All right. The root of it comes from what we picked up as what we learned from slavery and then move forward. Problem is, not enough of us are going before slavery and realizing how.
And sadly, guys, the culture that we once had that was vibrant is actually dying. Our culture is actually dying. The past, when you saw intact two-parent homes, was actually more inspired in the past. It was normal to see a father with a mother and children. It doesn't mean that they didn't have any issues. It doesn't mean that the families were perfect, but it was more the norm. But now with over 70% of our children being born in single-parent homes, let's look at the negative implications that are going to happen long-term. So once again, guys, many men are in toxic relationships. The relationships are very toxic. The young men are looking for feminine women to the point that they're disgusted, because a lot of the men that are being raised now were raised in single-parent homes where they had to be son husbands, where they had to take on the responsibility of being a man, which in essence wasn't really their time, and why they had to provide, and their development was arrested because their fathers weren't there. And this happens when sometimes our women give their power away and their virtue away by dealing with unsavory men. They tend to choose swag over substance instead of choosing a high-quality man. The man that will make them a good husband, many say, is boring. He's a square. But what they don't understand is that, the man that gives them that thug passion will make them have intense orgasms a lot of times are not the men that they need to be with, because they don't have any knowledge, because they weren't raised in strong families, and they too are alternate byproducts of dysfunction. Patrice Garner said that the last two generations for sure was told to get those degrees and get a big bag instead of them being groomed to become wives. Our white counterparts found their husband in college. Black women were not. And you're right, Patrice. There was a time in the 70s, my aunt did it. She married her husband in college. Many women in the past, they got college degrees, but they also valued family. But it seemed like around Gen X is when we start seeing this break or this chasm where women were more focused on degrees, hot girl summer. They were being very loose with their virtue. And they felt like they could always go back to that man tree and pick a man off the tree, only to come to a conniption that men are not invaluable commodities to be picked up from a tree, and that we're going to be around forever. Men are getting frustrated, and that's one of the reasons why I started the YouTube channel, The Culture Clinician, because they're tired of the toxicity that they have in America. They're sick of the incessant narcissistic traits and narcissistic personality disorder that a lot of these women have. And like I said earlier, many of these men defer power because they have not been raised in ecosystems of families that will give them the outcomes that they need to become better men. Men are at their best when they are dealing with very feminine and supportive women. Now listen, guys, there's 23 people that are watching. Guys, please donate to the channel. Donate to 7 Smalls. Guys, please hit the super chat if you have not hit it. I'm actually out of the country in South America, but I said that I want to more or less make sure I give you guys quality content because I'm dedicated to helping you guys win, especially the young men and also the sisters that want to introspect and do what's best for them to help their sons get good women. So please donate to the channel if you have not donated. If you have not donated, share the content if you don't have any money to share. But once again, these shows are very time consuming, guys, very time consuming. But I decided to take the time to have this show because I am out of the country and I didn't want to leave you guys hanging. So we're going to keep listening in a few more minutes and then we're going to open the line for discussion. And I want you guys, ladies and men, to add to the discussion. Patrice, if you're still around, I would like to hear your perspective from a woman about the great dichotomy that we're beginning to see in the toxicity that permeates in this current milieu called America. So keep listening, guys.
How great we were in ancient times, because there's a lot of that ties to who we really are and our real strength. And that small percentage of the time that we was, having to be slaves, that's a whole separate situation, right? And then not enough people they don't come into that. So we lack a strong culture that produces great results, which is why you see us, brothers like us, that's why it's BM, that's why we traveling, because we're tired of what the culture is being pushed at us, right? But we already know who the guardians of the culture are. We know who the gatekeepers of the culture are, and they got money at stake. See, that's why they can't afford to lose ground. And brothers like us, when we speak out about what's going on, they're ready to fight back because they know they got their teeth dug in. They got money involved in pushing the nonsense that keeps us in the mental shackles that we get trapped up into. With all the baby mama situations, trapping, being in the hood, brothers can't get passports because they owe child support, all kind of stuff. See, that's the type of monopoly that they're playing with you as a black man to say, oh, these are the cards you've been dealt and you got to lose a hand, figure it out.
Right. Aaron Ferris, you came to your conclusion when you traveled abroad and you saw the beauty and the femininity of Colombian, Brazilian, and probably African women if you've been to Africa. I want you to tell the audience what emotional feelings you had on your first journey traveling to those foreign countries. And then I want you to tell the audience what is passport black man's travels. All right?
Okay, cool. You know what, man? I was on the way up to the Christ Redeemer, and I think that's when it really hit me. You kind of like in the middle, it looked like the middle of the jungle, and it was just like something just came over me, man. It came over me and a friend of mine from DC, and we was like, man, it's freedom. The first time in my life I felt honestly free. You know what I mean? It's hard to explain it, but when you're in America, you just have so much going on, and then as you get older, you recognize that they have certain systems in place to kind of just keep you grounded a little bit. When I'm in Brazil, I just felt like it just was astonishing to me. It had nothing really to do with the women at that point. It was just a psychological thing for myself, man, because generation after generation, as black men, our ancestors have been through so much, bro.
Right.
So much. And in a lot of the cases, we're still in the area. Like, my people are from Alabama. So we moved from Alabama, I'm talking about right out of slavery, Alabama to Georgia. That's not a big jump, bro. So we have all these ancestral, problems that we grow up with, alcoholism, all types of stuff, child neglect, abuse. And when I was traveling, like all that just kind of.
And so, guys, we call that generational curses or generational dysfunction. And those generational curses and generational dysfunction oftentimes is more or less mapped out on what's called a genogram. Shout out to my brother, Black Fire Rising. Thank you, brother, for the generous super chat. I wish I could join this time, but I'll be back. Much appreciated, brother. No, much appreciated to you. And it's men like Black Fire Rising that give me the power and encouragement to continue to push forward. I love doing content creation, guys. As I said, it's very time consuming. You don't know the hours and the time I put into this stuff, but I am dedicated to seeing our young men do well. Patrice, I would love for you and TJ Randolph to pop on at some point. You guys are still around. And she said, girl, if men grew on trees. And it's right, Patrice. Many do feel that men grow on trees. They think men are going to be around forever as disposable commodities. But unfortunately, because many women don't believe that the fat meat is greasy, many are going to be singing that song by Patti LaBelle, I'm on my own. And it's sad because many men have been given the clarion call. I've given the clarion call to many women because I do care about them. And while my channel is unapologetically masculine, it's designed to empower and to impact Black men, there's a fraction of women that want to get good, decent men. And we do these shows for women that are genuine, not charlatans, not women coming in to infiltrate men's spaces to change the narrative. But we do this to help get the outcomes they want. And shout out to my dear friend and my sister, Mosaic, TJ Randolph, showing support to the Gen X Nexus. Yes, sweetie, we're going to do that Gen X Nexus. That's going to be one of my prolific shows at some point. We're going to be doing the Gen X Nexus at some point, and we're going to talk about how we got to this point that we're at now, because Gen X Nexus is also part of helping Black men understanding how they need to recalibrate their thinking and helping them to understand the chasm that we currently experience and how we got to this critical point where families are often dissipating and when women are looking for solid men, but many times our women are damaged as well because they come into relationships not wanting to concede power, but they have walls up because they're vulnerable. And so instead of coming to relationships, unfettered and willing to get with a good man, they come into relationships broken, and they come into relationships with barriers up because they've been hurt. So TJ, at some point, I'd love for you guys to pop on while I'm in South America. I'll be back in the States soon, but I want to continue to have this discussion. Hold tight, guys. We'll keep listening. Thank you guys for the ones that are watching and to the ones that are doing it. Keep listening.
Been away for that moment. Like I'm not nowhere near all this pain from all my ancestors, my like I come from every generation, at least on mine, not to get too personal, but all of them are alcoholics. My father, great-grandfather, grandfather. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. My grandfather never left Georgia, man. Never left Georgia before he died. The first time he ever left Georgia with the Florida, he had a heart attack and died. His first time out of Georgia. My dad never left the South. So for me to come back from the ilk I came from, I'm all the way in Brazil. That was life-changing for me personally. Now, as far as the femininity with the women were beautiful. It was something totally different because I'm kind of used to, beautiful women having such a little bit of an edge or a little attitude, feeling themselves. In Brazil, it's like, they just feminine, beautiful women, that kind of want to serve you to a certain degree. Same thing here in Colombia. And it's something to definitely fall in love with. Now, as far as Black Men Travels, I created it originally as like a blog. I was just writing different articles about my experience in Brazil. And it just took off from there. I ended up doing a Facebook group, then eventually a YouTube channel. So it just kind of, because I want to get the word out because I know what we go through as men, bro. Right. You deserve more, but you have to understand that you deserve more first. That's the key because a lot of us don't feel like, because when I was in Brazil, I was feeling guilty. Like I don't deserve this.
Right.
I don't deserve this. Like me, I'm not rich. I ain't know. So I want to get the word out to tell brothers, hey man, traveling can really change your life. Besides the women are just icing on the cake. Mm-hmm. Traveling opens up a lot of opportunities for you. Not only to leverage the American dollar, but to give you more time to find out what you want to do in life and find out what your purpose is.
Aaron, you said something that was very profound, and you said that I felt like I didn't deserve it. And so I created a clinical term called schema. Schema, in the clinical term, actually means a fixated mindset, but that affliction normally comes from pain. And you're correct. A lot of American men have been so mistreated, not just American men, but Black men in particular, because they've been the muse of society, that when it comes down to women and relationships, a man think a woman is doing him a service, she cook him a meal. Men in America think a woman's doing the service if he gives her sex. And let me say this, I'm not talking about dusty men that don't take care of their family. I'm not talking about men that don't work in bums and expect a woman to do something. I'm not talking about those kind of men. But I'm talking about hard-working men that work long hours, come home, take care of their kids, take care of their families. And you're correct. We've been so conditioned to feel like we're less than, that the greatness in us, when we travel abroad, it becomes so apparent. Harriet Tubman said that I could have freed a lot more. They didn't already know they were slaves. And so we have been pathologized to think that we're less than due to that schema affliction, but also cognitive distortion. Now, Mr. Melody, thank you for that Cash App, brother. You always come through. And I want to thank Pink Book Lessons. Pink Book Lessons. Thank you for that that clip. Hopefully, we can do a collaboration at some point with one master teacher. Thank you, Pink Book Lesson. That was an excellent clip, and I wanted to use it to highlight what's going on. Now back to Dick and Eric Spencer. You know, Eric, you know, you've been very vocal. You've been on my shows a lot of times, and you know, some assume that black men in America hate black women, or we don't like American women, and that's not the case. Tell the audience why you feel that people continue to use those talking points where there's no evidence to the contrary.
They use the same playbook. They use that because it's been working for so many years. But we live in a different age when that tactic was first introduced to us. There was no connectivity. There was no social media. There was no other outlets for us to talk to. So they're able to keep us under wraps by shaming us, cajoling us, manipulating us to stay on their program. But now with the advent of the internet and brothers like, you know, YouTube.
Shout out to my man, what's his name? CGC from LA. Thank you, brother, for the $5 super chat. Thank you, guys. And at some point, I'm going to drop the link. I want you guys to come in and have a discussion. TJ and Patrice, I want to hear the women with a conservative mindset and also the guys, because I am bringing it to you live from South America. I'm in Brazil. And I met up with Aaron Ferris and also some of the guys from BMO. I had a brief conversation with some of my man, Al Grease. He will be having his movie Frustrated 3 coming out at some point. And so go support that brother and support the movement, because many men are frustrated. You're beginning to see this new wave. And even though it's a small wave, this microcosm will turn or proliferate into a macrocosm. And once men understand what their work is, ladies, the ones that are listening, it's going to be a sad day, because they're going to begin to explore. And I know there are some women that say, well, they're going to divest too. But I promise you, to the women that are listening, you can't come into these countries thinking you're going to treat these men the way you treat American men. These men, some of them are very violent. They don't tolerate disrespect. They will hurt you over here. You can lose your life over here. In countries like Colombia and also in Brazil, femicide is real. There's so many beautiful women here that, you know, you can easily get discarded. You know, it's called beauty density. There's so many beautiful women that if, you know, an American 8 is probably a 4 or 5 over here. A Brazilian 5 is probably a 7 or 8 in America. That's how beautiful some of the women are. I'm not saying 100% of the women here are very pretty, but it's more beautiful women than unattractive women. So to the women that say, okay, we're going to divest and we're going to, you know, get, I promise you, men in other countries are not as lenient as American men, especially American black men. I promise you guys that. So I want you guys to keep listening. And then I want to bring some of the women and men
other content creators. They're able to talk and compare notes. And with that comparison, they're finding out that they're having the same experiences that other brothers are, and they're not alone. And in that, brothers are forming up like Voltron. And that's the part that they don't understand, because it's like you listen to a record, you play it over and over again. Damn, I just said record. But anyway, song over and over and over again. After a while, you know all the words to that song. And we've heard that song over and over and over again. So it doesn't work on us anymore, especially brothers that travel, because we know there's a B-side that we haven't heard yet. And once you get on that plane and you get that passport and you hear that B-side, you're like, damn, how come I ain't been listening to this B-side? Because you've been listening to that A, thinking A was the best thing that you had. And that B-side come along with, you know, B stand for Bunda. Man, bruh, you like, man, I gotta listen to this B-side. This B-side is where it's at. And the heck with that A-side. But they still try to use that. And now they know that it doesn't work. Some of them are trying to double down, but it's too late. It's too late. And unfortunately, you're going to see the side effects of all that, but not necessarily side effects, consequences of all that false propaganda about your men.
Right. You know, guys that are listening, please share this content. Listen, guys, these shows are powerful. You got juggernauts in here, man. You got Aaron Ferris of Black Man's Travels. You got my man Al Grease of Frustrated 1, 2, and 3. That's going to be epic. You got a licensed clinical therapist. I don't think you guys understand what you got. You got gems. You got Solid Kings, and my man Robin to the bottom, Chris Strongheart with his brand, You don't get this in many male circles, man. You're not gonna find too many therapists that's gonna help black men be empowered. But listen, I started this journey because I saw the pain of black men suffering in silence. Many men have suffered in silence, including myself, because many people didn't understand the pain and the concerns of black men. And unfortunately, guys, a lot of men have went to the grave site, and you can hear the echoes from the grave site of the pain of men that have never been heard. And so when you have great men like Al Grease, the promoter, Frustrated 1, Frustrated 2, and Frustrated 3, and you got my man Aaron Ferris. We're like the watchers that were on Mount Haran. They were angels, and they saw the angels. But anyway, we're giving you guys good reports about the good things to come. But you got to believe in yourself, and you got to be pushed out of the confines of this toxic culture called America. Al Grease, you did Frustrated 1, Frustrated 2, and Frustrated 3. And I know you ain't going to give no pointers on that, but I want you to talk about Frustrated 1 and Frustrated 2 and why it was paramount. And what was the pushback that you got? You talked about it a little bit in the past, but what was the pushback that you got?
Well, the most thing I'm proud of is I got individuals that changed their ideology when it came to dating and dating single moms. The Frustrated 2 really focus on dating single moms and some of the setbacks and stuff you can go through, and being responsible for kids that are not yours, how the court can hem you up. So what I got was the response I got from the people who watched the film was it changed their ideology, number one. So they put them on a different path. Same thing with number one, with Frustrated, and guys didn't really look at going abroad. So what happened was it stayed in the same circles. I was fortunate. I grew up in New York City and moved down to Atlanta. I was in Atlanta, like I said, when they had Georgia peaches, not the plums they have now. They had I was there, and I see was when they was in the midst of building, and I was a young kid going to college and trying to find my way, and you see how the mindset of the women there was like, well, I'm going to school, I'm gonna get my degree so I can get my own shit, and not looking to work together. They wasn't in it to work together. They were for self, and I had experienced that the long way. I dated, tried living together, tried to build something, and it got to the point where I didn't want to go home. I would get off from work and like, damn, y'all want to hang out, man? Y'all want to go to Dugan's? My treat. You get some wing, whatever is my treat. And they were like, damn, what's wrong, dog? I want to go home. Looking to work together. What the hell you mean, man? Because I go home, I got to deal with this shit. And I stepped back, man. I thought, he said, you know what? I'll fix this. And I started changing my philosophy. Started changing my philosophy and shit, and started looking. It's got to be a better way. And I have an older brother who's in the Navy, and he was like, man, when you start traveling, you go to places like the Philippines. You spend time in the Philippines and spend time in Southeast Asia and all that, man. You see a whole different side of shit. So I embraced that. Like I said, changed my way of thinking. And that's what I'm most proud of, 1 and 2, because it got guys to saying, hey, man, wait a minute, maybe I should look somewhere else. And they started getting passports. And along with the good brother Charles Tyler, with his show, was doing the passport challenge, challenging brothers to get passports, challenging brothers to go overseas, challenging brothers to not just Brazil, but just get out the matrix. And once I seen the response from that and seeing brothers, forming a group, Aaron Ferris group, man, Black Man Travels and Black Man Option, and people hitting me up, man, because of social media, more accessible, man. People can get a hold of you, man, saying, hey, man, you changed my life. I don't know if you know this, man, but you had a major impact on my life. Mm-hmm. And I saw your video, man. I'm telling you, I was going down this road. I went down this road, and I'm happy. I'm happy, man, and that's all you want, man. You want to make something, man, that has an impact on somebody and change their life. And with Frustrated 1 and 2, I was able to do that. And Frustrated 3, I'm going to do the same thing and hopefully have a bigger impact and get some individuals there to really think. And that's what I'm most proud of. They're kind of like eye openers and make you think about where you're going in life, because it can have a big impact on your life if you're going down the wrong road. and especially with dating right now, it's so combative and challenging now, and most guys are finding happiness going abroad and looking at other situations.
You know, Frustrated 2 talked about, how can I say it? Frustrated 2 talked about paternity court. And that's one of the negative dangers in America. We just did a show last week called Injustice. Tell the audience why you came up with that show and how was it beneficial and why it got so much negative traction.
You know what's crazy about Frustrated 2? I was I better share this story with you before, but I was at Starbucks. I was at Starbucks, man, and this white guy kept staring at me. And you know, I kind of, you know, taken back a little, like, why this dude keep staring at me, man? And I got my, you know, dude staring at me, man. I got my stuff, and then as I was about to leave, he stepped to me and said, "Excuse me, man, I don't mean to bother you, but you look familiar." I said, "I look familiar." He said, "Yeah, I was watching a video, Frustrated, and I saw the thing on there. Is your name Al Greasy?" So I said, "Yeah, man." He said, "Man, you mind if I talk to you for a minute?" I said, "Man, no problem." We sat down and he was talking about what he was going through as far as paternity fraud, not paternity fraud, excuse me, fighting to see his kids and having his kids in his life and the exorbitant amount of money he was spending. And he was just like, he was pouring his heart out to me. And I didn't know this dude. I'm sitting there, he was just pouring his heart out to me. He said, "Man, I just think that's another topic that needs to be exposed, and how they treat brothers and treat men in general when they got to go to family court, and how they're being extorted for X amount of dollars." Man, he was a firefighter. So he was like, "Man, I'm a firefighter. I'm forced to live back in my truck. Can't see my kids. They said I'm a hazard to my kids, and they taking 60% of my income. I have no access to my kids." And you know, I was like, wow. So I did look back and did the research on it, and you know, like I said, I found out that that's a $50 billion a year industry. Most cats don't know, especially now they talk about the whole welfare reform. Any woman receiving welfare has to have a child support case attached to it. So she can go in and just say a name, you know, Chris Strongheart, baby, and they just boom, 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 fill out the paperwork. Chris don't know what's going on.
He the pappy. He the pappy.
Yeah.
and catch him years later. Catch him years later, and he might not even be the father, but he got to fight like hell to prove his innocence. Like, yo, this is not my kid. Well, why you didn't come back? I don't even know this, bro. And you had situations like that, and you had brothers that were paying child support for kids that wasn't there because they were dating. They were dating a woman dating a single mom, and tried to do the honorable thing by, you know, let me take little man, go get him a haircut, but you got to work. I pick him up from school, or I go get some dinner and stuff for him. And then when the relationship fell, the court feel like, well, your relationship with the kid don't have to stop. You were there, you was playing daddy, so why stop now? You got to continue. And a lot of brothers was getting hemmed up by that, paying exorbitant amounts of money for kids that's not theirs. And when you try to move on to your next relationship or start a life somewhere else, you're being handicapped by, you know, 30, 35, 40% of your income going to somewhere else, on somebody else's kids, raising somebody else's kids. So I just try to make it informative as possible. And the response, you know, the brothers appreciate it. A lot of them didn't know about equitable estoppel. That's the law, equitable estoppel, how they can make you pay for somebody else's kid that's not yours. They were appreciative of the information I was giving out. Even some of the women, because women realize they have sons. They have sons, and they spend a lot of their money bailing their sons out through that shit. You're gonna be a grandparent one day. You're gonna be a grandparent. You don't like the issue of somebody telling you can't see your grandchild, or your son is being locked up in jail. You got to go bail him out. So a lot of the women were appreciative of the information too. And then you got some that, you know, they didn't believe it. You lying. This is trash. And I'm not here to need anybody to validate the information. I give you the information. You can take it or leave it. As far as I'm concerned, here's the information. As long as I could have one impact on somebody's life to save them from that shit, it's a success for me.
You know, thinking they're expensive, here's a comment. I want you to more or less to address it. But there's a lot of negative consternation anytime. All right, guys. So let's add to the conversation. I'm going to stop this. I just want you guys to get a schematic framework as I bring it to you live from South America about what's going on, because many men feel like they're eating out of the trash can. So I'm going to drop the link. I want some of the ladies to come on. Let's have a conversation. because I told you guys I was going to still be feminine, even though I'm out of the country. But let's have a conversation. What are you guys getting from this conversation? What did you think about many young men that are millennials that are beginning to travel abroad to find wives? What's going to be the negative impact on the Black community at the rate that we're going? Do you feel like what the men are saying is fair and judicious? And that's a loaded question. So I'll drop the link. I would like some of the women to drop on, some of the men to drop on as well to come in. Let's have a conversation. Because these conversations are vital to the mental health of a man. Many men are beginning to get passports. Even though it's a microcosm, that microcosm will turn to a macrocosm. When men are beginning to see other men travel, there are naysayers, many naysayers, because they're doing what's called classic projection or displaced aggression, which are all ego defense mechanisms. So, Mosaic with TJ, how you doing, dear? What's going on? How you doing, sister? Unmute yourself, dear. Unmute yourself. Unmute yourself, TJ. There you go. What's going on, dear? Can you hear me? Hello,
can
TJ.
you hear me? Can
Yes,
you hear me?
I can hear you. How you doing, dear?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great.
You know, wow. I'm not really, there's a lot to be said about what I was hearing. And,
Mute your YouTube. Mute your YouTube. Mute your YouTube. Or turn it off, please.
Okay.
It's an echo. It's an echo in the back. Thank you.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
It's perfect. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I think it's unfortunate. And again, I think the sad part about it is that, and I know I can't speak for everybody, but I can just say that myself and many of the women that I went to school with, we just didn't, we had no idea. And what I mean by that, like I put in the chat, I thought that I would have time for one, and that I was going to always be the hottest thing going for two. And the reason why I bring that up, I just watched Kevin Xennials, and he did an interview with Brittany Renner. And she talked about,
oh my God.
Yeah. And she was saying something to the effect about, that, I'm young and I have this body and I'm, attractive and I can do this. And it made me think about myself. And, and what I was thinking at 29, and I had my daughter at 27. So she was 2 by 29. And you think that you're going to be the hottest thing popping. You're going to think that when you're ready to settle down, that you can, like you said, go pick from the man tree. And you're not. Right. And you don't realize how many opportunities you missed.
Right.
From guys that really were suitable men. Right. But you thought that you had time and you didn't want to settle down with those suitable men. And in the meantime, you have all these other men, these trash individuals that you are entertaining that go to help you become this jaded person that you bring to the next guy. And then it's just a never ending circle.
And you know what the crazy thing is, Patrice, is that they said that they are settling, but actually the man is actually settling. Because watch this, Patrice, you grew up in Oklahoma, I grew up in rural Eastern North Carolina. Well, a man got 25. I'm sorry, TJ, I apologize. Well, a man got 25 to 50 years ago, TJ, was a woman that was wife ready, mostly, a woman that was a virgin or had low bodies, and a woman that have kids by multiple men. So what a lot of men are saying, look, I'm not going to sign up for mediocrity anymore. You're not selling. Actually, I'm selling because you're giving me something that you've given to others. So how's that special? How can I value anything? Because, it's you giving it away to so many men that the virtue that you had is now gone. And I think a lot of times, TJ, women don't come into relationships asking themselves, what can I give that man? What am I willing to render unto him? And some of it's due to dysfunction in our families, because a lot of our girls, TJ, learned some of the negative issues that they suffer from their mothers through vicarious trauma. And you know, men have needs and wants too. Men want virtuous women. But you got TJ and Patrice and also Mr. O, about 29% of men now that are virgins. So those men that are virgins, do those men deserve to get with women that got 5 kids by 5 different men? Or women like Brittany Renner just been, you know, quote unquote, ran through and had a lot of fun? Should those men settle for women like that? What is the incentive for a man to give her protection, provision, maintenance in his life when she's not giving him anything in return? As I said in the past, in fair exchange, there is no robbery. There's no robbery in fair exchange, guys. So what is the man getting in return, TJ, Patrice, and Mr. O? I want you guys to answer that poignant question.
Well, to honestly telling you the truth, we talking about stepdaddies. So dealing with the silent generation, I'm gonna use them first because they don't get they just dues for the crap they have put up through with raising the baby boom women. These dudes basically put on a pedestal that all they had to do was work 40 hours a week. They could do whatever they want, and they still had a woman at home because there wasn't that many of them walking around, and they knew this. They knew this. Basically, the dudes from the silent generation, they call women and children. 2021 to adopt the philosophy of the guys of the 40s and 50s, minus the left and right hooks.
Sir, I didn't hear any of that.
Education.
I didn't hear any of that.
Huh?
You were cutting off. I didn't hear the majority of what you said. You
I'm
talked
sorry
about the silent generation, and then had worked 40 hours and came home, and then that's where I think you kind of dropped off for a moment.
Last week, but my father, he's from older generation. He's from the silent generation. He was born in 1934, so he's about to be 88 this next year. So no men from that generation basically them and the greatest generation, they basically rebuilt the current society that we have got accustomed to living. So these men was the so-called pillars, the patriarchs of the community. These are what the women say they truly want. They want the men from the 40s and 50s. Now, mind you, them same men, they didn't have to go through all the economic turmoil because they grew up during the Great Depression. They got to reset society, so everything was cheap. They was the main ones in this part of the country making stuff, so everything was cheap. They was able to afford a nice living, even with the limited education and with the so-called jobs. Now, fast forward to the 1980s. Now we got the first crop of baby boom men. These men didn't want to work in these factory jobs. They want to go to school. Now, mind you, the whole thing shifted. So women didn't want the hairy knuckle plumbers or all that good stuff because they think they so-called silent generation mom feel like they was a slave. So they thought in their mind, the baby boomers and the Generation X woman, then millennial women, they thought in their mind they could go ahead and get one of these guys that wear a suit. I mean, they're going to have a nice, cushy lifestyle because the man's going to be working in the office. He ain't going to be smelling like bad and all that good stuff. And she don't need to go ahead and cook all the meals. That's when that Cosby stuff came in. They thought they could actually get a maid, or he's going to be able to find some type of way to balance the work life and a home life. This was the older Dodge. You probably could agree with me, Kosha. The older Dodge was they could go out there, get the bacon, and come home and cook it too. Am I right?
Yes, I agree with that, man. I've always said in the past that many of our women have been empowered to be depowered. And you're giving a great expose, Mr. O. What you're saying is very powerful and very poignant. I think a lot of the boomer women compromised a lot of our women. But to add clarity to this discussion, TJ and Patrice, ladies, I want you guys to give clarity to what I just asked the question. What are modern men getting in return with so much dysfunction, TJ and Patrice? Because what your grandmother and great-grandmother got and mother got years ago, men now are not getting that. So I want you ladies to add clarity to this discussion, please, TJ and Patrice. And also, Mr. O, you were correct, brother.
Thank you.
This is Patrice. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi. Shout out to the panel. Shout out to you. It's my first time on your channel and coming up on your panel. I saw you on LaPeef and I believe the lead attorney. So
yes, ma'am. Thank you.
You're welcome. I am a baby boomer. I grew up. My parents were the silent generation. My mom and dad, and they were together, you know, migrated from the South. I was born and raised on South Side of Chicago. So the earliest.
We both too similar, sis. I'm born and raised outside Chicago. Well, my mom was the baby born in '46. My father from the silent generation, but both came from the South, Alabama and Mississippi, respectively. They found each other here, but the crazy thing about it, though, when they met each other, they was on their second marriage. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that's why I be trying to say, I'm sorry for cutting you off, but I wanted to put this little tidbit before you continue. The reason why we use them men from the silent generation, because women want to use Malcolm X. They want to say like they are the most unprotected women. Now, mind you, I read the autobiography of Malcolm X, and in that particular book, you know, he was Detroit Red before he was Malcolm X. He actually had to go ahead and hang with women in Harlem and they tenements. Majority of them was prostitutes, and they used to tell the stories of them same working men from the 40s and 50s that they did not feel like men when they went home because a woman was a battle axe. They actually had to leave early to go to work. Before they go to work, they go stop by a prostitute to go ahead and feel like a man. But y'all want us to go ahead and say that y'all think those men was not going through the same thing that we going through now? Shit.
Interesting. That's interesting. We're gonna return back there. But Patrice, go ahead on, and I want TJ to add to it. And then Mr. O, we'll follow back. But go ahead, Patrice. I'm sorry.
Yeah, the difference I see is definitely with the now generation, with the modern women, is the respect is not there. I see a lot of mouth, a lot of smart mouth, sassiness, too much independence, the lack of care for feeling that they don't need a man because they're doing it all or getting the bag, and you know, all these different things because they're highly educated and they have good jobs. Some of them, I mean, I have nieces that, you know, they have good jobs. Some of them have a kid or two, some of them don't, but they're all single. And that's what I told them is the common denominator, you know. And it's sad that majority of them is saying they don't even want to get married. And I'm like, why wouldn't you want that, you know, the partnership, the security, the protection, the safety, the, you know, the cushion of that, you know, that what a man can provide for a woman. I said, do you think you can do everything by yourself? Listen, I say to them, the effort that you putting in every day going to work, I say, you will turn over backwards for your boss. You will turn over backwards to get that raise. You go in and you do everything your boss asks you to do, but you will have a problem if your husband asked you.
Yes, ma'am. I totally agree. I totally agree with you 100%.
I concur with that.
Right.
And you know, and that's the problem. I said the effort that you put in right now for your career, if you did half of that effort, you probably have a husband by now.
Right. And what happens, Patrice, and then TJ, I want you to add clarity to it. They come into a relationship giving a man nothing. They're not wife ready. They've never seen stable relationships where, you know, they saw their dad loving their mom. Many of them have, you know, had a lot of fun, you know, to the point that they've been negatively imprinted by dusty men, like TJ said earlier. And then so they come to the table with nothing, but at least with what their grandmothers got and their grandmom or their mothers, at least most of those women were more virtuous. TJ, I want you to add clarity to this conversation. Because what are men getting in return? In my opinion, they're getting nothing. What's your take on that?
Well, regrettably, in many cases, they're not. In many cases, they're not, because they're, particularly if they are not married and have no kids, and then to get in a relationship with a woman that has a kid or two, again, like it's been said, that they have given their womb and to someone else, and so they're asking a lot of the man to take care of someone else's children. And again, you know, we don't have the idea or the notion of the stepfather is not as appealing in this day and time as opposed to when I was growing up and my mom was growing up, because I had a stepfather. And
you know what's so crazy though?
Hey, hold on, Mr. O. Hold on, Mr. O. Let her finish. Go ahead.
And he still calls me his child. And my grandfather, who was born in 1910, he raised my aunt I mean, my cousin, who's who we call her my aunt because they raised her as their own. But again, you don't have that sense of family anymore. So I think, and what makes it even worse, I think a man or men would be willing to even accept and deal with that if the women, if we exercise some humility and some some appreciation.
Right. And here's the conundrum with that. Being a woman with children, I remember TJ and Patrice was saying something negative. Actually, a woman that had kids actually knew that she got a man that she was highly favored because most men didn't want to deal with women that had kids. Do you remember that time, TJ and Patrice? Do you guys remember that?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
Right,
absolutely.
right. But then you got chicks that got 5 and 6 kids by different men, been ran through. But all of a sudden they say, okay, I deserve. No, heifer, you don't deserve anything. You deserve what you are. How can you tell a man what you deserve? But you got 29% of men that are virgins, never had been with a woman, but they got to settle for you. But then they say that they are settling because they want the top 10, 15% of men. Our community is a cesspool. It is a cesspool of toxicity. And I'm telling men, when they travel abroad, not only will they have their mind awakened, they don't know how to act because they've never been treated so well. And it's unfortunate because a lot of these men are suffering in silence. They have no motivation to build families because they've never seen healthy relationships. They've never seen true feminine women. And a lot of the men are saying, you know what is the benefit to get married? What am I getting in return? Nothing. Because as I said earlier, in fair exchange, there is no robbery. Mr. O, I want you to finish talking, and then Joel and the Miller brother add to the conversation because this is a good conversation because many Xennials and millennials are beginning to get passports. Gen X men are getting passports, and they're beginning to travel abroad to find feminine women to help amplify them or put them in situations where they become better men. What's your take on Mr. O? Finish adding to what Patrice and TJ said, and then Joel, the Miller child, I want you to add to the conversation, brother.
Well, I have a somewhat of a bias towards there's no disrespect to older generation of men because they did send us off, especially Generation X men. These men born between 1965 to 1980, sometimes I can't even take them seriously. For one, y'all dudes basically started this whole gang bang culture and hip hop and transplant to our communities. Y'all uphold a flag of representing number matters and destruction, all that good stuff. And y'all had a nerve to actually have legacies walking around here that we actually got to try to correct, try to instill some good wisdom and guidance and whatnot. And you think I actually want to take up that flag and you still getting a chance to get some girls out here? I actually get mad at these dudes. Even some of the guys that started the manosphere, they Generation X, but I understand some of them was not part of that tomfoolery. So I like that bypass. Us millennials and Gen Z guys, I'm really disappointed. I'm really disappointed millennial men, especially was born in the mid 80s like I was. You've seen what happened with all these drugs. You've seen what happened with this gang culture. You've seen with the single mom epidemic. And us men born between 1982 to 1997, I do not take none of y'all seriously until y'all want to say that, oh, we need to go ahead and build families. We need to go and do this. We need to build black. We supposed to have a Black Wall Street right now. If history is supposed to repeat itself, if we are circle 2021 like they did back in 1921, we're supposed to have a Black Wall Street. And this time we're supposed to know better not to let this stuff come tumbling down. But no. After 2019, after I saw all the riots, and y'all want to go ahead and hold hands with some of these people that don't even care nothing about yourself getting a vote, that's why I walked away from the community for good. So with my new adage and my new mentality, I just said like this. I only roll with the ones that know the history of what happened. We go ahead and take away the generation curses that we know that we do have, try to image ourselves and carry on forthright. Find like-minded individuals, try to find a nice place somewhere in rural America and actually build a new community like our old ancestors did, because they knew that you cannot bring slave mentality to this new place we call freedom. You can't bring that uppity so-called, you think you quote unquote white, but they treat you still like the same nigga on the plantation. They don't want none of that. That's what some of our ancestors did back in Arkansas and middle of America around the Old West. They could not deal with this North and South crap. That's exactly what's going on now.
Patrice, you're a baby boomer. What do you think about what Mr. O said? And then Joe and the Miller, I want you to add to the conversation. because men like Joel in the middle that appears to be a millennial and also Mr. O probably are going to exercise that option to travel abroad at some point. But Patrice, what do you think about what Mr. O said? And then Joel in the middle, add clarity to the conversation, please.
I do understand his frustration with that. I understand the fact that, you know, the 80s and 90s were hell in the Black community when the crack epidemic started. Half of the men he talking about became drug dealers. Mm-hmm. You know, that half of the men he talking about are incarcerated now.
And they became the new drug users. They became the victim of their own product. And I love that.
Exactly. At that as well, Mr. Oh, yeah, I was going to say that. You know, a lot of that played a part in the downfall of our Black community. So I understand his frustration of that coming out of that, especially, you know, in Chicago on the South Side, and then the gang culture. You know, let's not leave that out, that the gang culture started to rise as well. So these are very, very poignant things that he's talking about that did help destroy the Black community. And there's a sense of letdown from the Generation X guys. So I get it. I understand. The thing is, how do we move the needle forward now? How do we build that Black Wall Street that he's talking about now? Because he's correct. We have the Black community, for the most part, we have been the type of people that have always liked the flash of the dangling bling bling, the flash of the carrot that our Democratic parties has flashed before us for decades, and we buy into it every time, and we get nothing out of it.
I totally agree.
So at what point are we going to wake up and realize that neither side is on our side? So therefore, we have to build our community. We have to build it. We have to take up these responsibilities. That's why I'm on these platforms now, trying to give back in some way to the younger generation that I feel that the Generation X failed them, men and women, because a lot of them were raised by single parents. A lot of the ratchetness that you see today with the women and the attitudes is because their mothers before them didn't know anything, didn't know. And you don't know what you don't know. So how do we get to the point where we reach a happy medium as Black men and Black women to just even stop the fighting in general and to say, let's build together. Let's build the Black, let's build the communities.
Let me ask you a question real quick, TJ and Patrice. Is it that they did not know, or is it that they did not want to know? And then I want Joel in the middle to come in and add some balance to it. Him and Mr.
Well, I believe it's a little bit of both. You understand? Okay. Because sometimes, like I said, single family household, your environment, a lot of them was a product of the environment of poverty. Poverty breeds crime. Crime breeds all those things that I just mentioned, the drug infestation, the gang violence. I grew up on the South Side in one of the roughest neighborhoods, what was now known as one of the roughest neighborhoods. When I was coming up, Inglewood wasn't. But yeah. Hello? Can you guys hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead. Keep talking.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you know, one of the roughest neighborhoods, and to see the change that it is made is when I went over there like 5 years ago and visited the house that I grew up in. It just amazed me to watch how the community had deteriorated. So my question is, my answer is it's a little bit of both. You don't know what you don't know. And then the ones that did know did nothing with what they knew and didn't pass it on to the next generation.
Right. Excellent. Right. And I would say the Black church has been complicit in that partially because I think it's mine and TJ generation that we saw this great demise. Real quick, TJ, what role did you feel like Gen X had in this demise? And then Joel in the middle, I want you to talk about this discussion. What do you think, TJ?
Well, particularly, I graduated from high school in 1985. So I really think, and when I look at many of the young women or just the people that I went to school with at the University of Oklahoma, the majority of us did come from single parent homes. Many of us came from not only single parent homes, but, poor single parent homes. So the focus was education, because the dysfunction we saw from largely our mothers, we said in our minds that we didn't want to be subject to having to depend on a man because we saw that we couldn't. Well, we saw what our mothers went through, not knowing the why, what they went through. We just saw the result of it. So because many of us went to school with this mentality, we went to school thinking, okay, this is not going to be us. This is not going to be us. We didn't realize at the time, in so doing, that we were essentially separating ourselves from our men. I think we did it as a means of survival because we didn't want to be poor. We didn't want to, we didn't want to live the kind of lives that we had grown up in.
Right. I think it was poverty, but also I think it was some rebellion too. I think it was both, TJ. I think poverty.
Yeah, I will agree.
Role, but I think there's some rebellion as well.
I will agree with that. Because now that you mentioned, I remember saying that because I have no problem in admitting that, when Kevin was on the campus, when the young men were talking about, submission and this kind of stuff, and cooking for our men, and we were like, we work just like you do. So I will agree with that. I will agree with that. And even in my very first marriage with my daughter's father, that was my mentality. I work just like you do. Why do I have to come home and cook every day? And, so it was definitely that. I will agree with that.
Right. And here's the crazy thing about it, Patrice and Mr. O and also TJ. Women say they want to be married. They're the ones that'll, wanting to run down the aisle and for a man to put a ring on their finger. But yet they turn around and complain and say, I work too. So I asked them the question, do you want a marriage or do you just want to stay single? Because you can cook for yourself, you can provide for yourself, and then you don't have to worry about a man nagging you about cooking or whatever. So many come into relationships not willing to want to serve and understanding that marriage is not a fairy tale. It's work. You have to be willing to work. You have to have a mindset to work. But some come in and want egalitarian relationships, and they expect the man to still be traditional, to provide, protect, to do quote unquote man stuff. But when it comes down to doing traditional woman stuff, then all of a sudden it's an issue. It's an issue. Joel in the middle, you popped off, man. You can pop back on, brother. Pop back on. I know I said I was gonna get to you, but Joel in the middle, pop back on. But until Joel pop back on, Mr. O, what did you want to say about this discussion, real quick? It's about 1 o'clock in South America.
It's 10:13 here in the city of Chicago. And I was gonna tell her I'm from and still live in Inglewood. I'm from the 71st and Halstead area, and I'm sorry to say it. I grew up there all my life. It had gotten worse.
It's gotten worse.
Wow.
Yeah. Look. I literally have to, when I walk outside out of my house, I literally go ahead and kiss the sky, kiss the ground, and thank God. And before I even get off the step, because I know as soon as I get off the step, it's go time. Even if I'm a regular working man, I'm not no street thug. But even then, they don't care.
Well, you are growing up from about a mile from where I grew up. I grew up right off of 63rd and Halstead, so I know exactly where you are.
Yeah, and now look, I just made 35 last week. Now I'm one of these guys that these women want to go ahead and talk about now. Even though I'm going through a transition right now to get back to my own place, but I'm the guy that stayed out of trouble. Yes, I did street stuff because I was stupid, but I learned better by the time I was 19, and then I get caught up in the system. So I thank God that I always had a job since I was 19 years old. Always had an honest job, worked my hands to the bone, even tried to go with my hand in school and college and whatnot. I got some college under my belt, but now I got a degree because some degrees that I was going to go for ain't really about crap. I could go and start a business without the said degree. So I'm trying to reevaluate myself, relearn myself, and trying to apply myself in a different format. Now, I said that to say this. Since I'm not hood, and we know we in Chicago, you know, the majority of women in Chicago, what kind of guys they like, right? Yeah. So I had to go through not getting selected, you know what I'm saying? Even when I tried to put on the Pookie and Ray Ray role, it was not authentic. They saw right through it, and they still played me, even though I did some stupid stuff in the streets to go ahead trying to build up some type of rep. So that was twofold. Now, I see the same women that they give me no play from like 16 up to now 35. These are the same ones on social media. These are the same ones we trying to act like we friends. I be like, I'm not your friend. Just because I grew up right next door to you, just because we went to the same school. Hell, we might even shared a Coca-Cola before. But look, I am not your friend. All right. Look, I seen who you mess with. I see who broke your back end. I see who you have fun with. I see who your friends are. I do not want no parts of that because look, you do not listen to no man. Your own mama showed you not to listen to one. So you think I'm about to go ahead and curtail? You think I'm about to go ahead and grovel and beg down to a 30+ year old strag that's ran through? And I'm not trying to be disrespectful to the ladies on the platform, but you understand how I feel. That like gang that want to go ahead, somebody I get in the bag. You think I want to actually want to spend a minute with you on the phone, let alone in the same room with you? Are you serious? And then these young ones come now. That's the only thing I'm mad about. The young ones that's coming up, they never went through nothing. They trying to use everything that the baby boomers, the Generation X, and my generation had taught them. And I'm looking at this shit talking about, well, y'all used to beat us up there. And what generation? And what generation you talking about?
Right.
I want to see this. I want to see this. Who was beating on who? She was like, well, my grandma. Well, how old is your grandma? Well, my grandma only 44. What she do for a living? Do she work? No. What she is? She a hustler, huh? What gang does she hang with? Yeah. Then once I start going down, I say, your grandma ain't no fucking woman. She FBG duck mama. Y'all think that's women? Shit.
Well, listen. We got to understand, though. Do we not all agree that the change in the culture of music had played a part in that?
Right, it did.
FBG Duck, King Von, Lil Durk, all of them from Chicago. I know the history with them over there in Old Town. This drill music, and even when gangster music came in, I've been in the music business for over 20 years. So even when the gang culture music that, you know, the Black community sold into, that told us to kill each other, to, you know, to celebrate the illegal drugs, to celebrate gang violence and things of this nature, we bought all into those things based off of what the music said to do, what color you should wear. This should be your territory. You shouldn't go on this side of the tracks. You should,
calling women bitches.
Yeah, calling women B's and H's. I mean, we fell into that culture, and now I hear young ladies calling each other that, like in general conversation, and I'm like, oh my God, like this was never accepted in my culture coming up. So the music industry definitely played a part in that, and the drill music that's out now that's being sung by the Little Durks and all of them has wreaked havoc, especially in the rap industry in our Black culture. More young Black rappers have died in the last 10 years than I can't even, like, the numbers than ever before in life. So that definitely played a part in it.
And when like I said, history repeats itself. You can juxtapose these hip hop artists to the early blues artists of the beginning of the last century. They both have both things identical in common. And I told y'all, instead of having the flapper girls of the 1910s, 20s, and 30s, we got the whopper girls. They got the same characteristics, same mindset. So I'm only going to do what the only rational thing to do, even though it's illegal, but I'm not doing it illegally. I'm only doing with my mind. It's pimping. And it's not, I'm not talking about being on a corner trying to sell. I'm talking about, I'm trying to become a acculturated pimp to deal with a acculturated prostitute. And until, you know what I'm saying, until it's the shebang hits, that's how I roll. And I'm a righteous man before anybody want to go ahead and judge me talking about some pimping and stuff like that. No. The reason why I chose that so-called thing, because them pimps always put themselves first. They know I took care of business second, and they got shit done third. What do women want from a man? What do they want from a man? Them three things, right? But guess what? They don't want a dude that's no nonsense. They don't want no dude that's straightforward. They don't want no dude that's on his square because he's no fun. He's boring. He's too serious. You want a guy with an edge though, right? Don't that no nonsense, that don't take no crap. Don't he got an edge? It's so funny because you can't control him like you can't do with the little thuggos. The ones that's always horn dogs that got X amount of kids walking around this community. Oh, it's so fun for me now that I'm grown. I got to deal with Generation X, millennials, and Gen Z dudes that think they tough. So now I got to knock out old men, dudes my age, and young dudes that think they tough. It's fun. It's fun. It's really fun.
I'm sorry. I'm
And
sorry.
these dudes be the same ones.
Hey, Mr. O, hold on. Go ahead, TJ. Hold tight, Mr. O. I know you're passionate, brother. But go ahead.
I want to speak to what this comment here is. It says some women are gaslighting us about their epiphany about the importance of valuing all men. They could not secure high value men they really wanted and took whatever man they could as they got older. Well,
And that's the truth.
Okay. In some cases, it is.
Right.
In some cases, it is.
No, it
But
is true in some cases. Go ahead.
In
TJ,
some
go ahead.
cases, it's very true.
Right. Yes, ma'am.
You know, I had a quote unquote high value man. That was my first husband, but he wasn't the man that I needed.
Mm-hmm. Talk about that.
I wasn't the woman that he needed.
Mm-hmm.
The husband I have now is the man I needed.
Right. Talk about he wasn't the man that you needed. Break that down for the audience that's listening.
Well, it kind of like what, Kevin said, and I don't put it all on him. I put, because again, I was in the military at the time and I'm a very assertive woman. Again, as I shared, not understanding or fully appreciating my role as a wife because I was a military officer and not knowing how to turn that off when I got home. I did not want to yield to his direction.
Mm-hmm.
Now, part of that, though, when I would not yield, he would punish me.
Right.
And punish me, I don't mean necessarily physically, but I mean, emotionally or financially and those kinds of things. So, and talk very poorly to me. And I am not just down talking him. And regrettably, my daughter saw the dysfunction between her father and me. So
Mm-hmm.
I definitely will not put it all on him.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But he was not the man for me, and I was not the woman for him. But he was high value, very wealthy, all those 6 characteristics. So again, I will just be honest as it relates to me, and I can't speak for all women, but I'll definitely say, it's never, ever, ever been about money for me.
Right. But the good thing is, but TJ, I do appreciate the fact that you're doing a lot of introspecting. You're trying to educate some of these young women because you said several times you made mistakes.
Oh yeah.
And let's be real. You're right. As a woman, beauty fades. She can't get the men that she used to get. It's the way it is. Just like a man can't get the woman that he wants if he doesn't have resources and money. And even that is not a guarantee that he's going to get a woman that's cooperative. It's so sad that many of our women are so disrespectful to their men. They constantly challenge their authority. They constantly allude to the fact that, I like what I think Mr. O was saying that, we beat them and all that. And many of the women in Gen X are raising hell, and also the millennial women and Xennials, they didn't go do what their grandparents went through. So when they want to, bitch and complain about struggles and whatnot, they didn't go through it. So it's really baffling to me because millennials and Xennials actually are some of the most privileged. And also they've done studies that say that millennials are some of the most entitled and the most ungodly. And it's all a manifestation from Gen X, because I think Gen X women, I think the boomers were silent with their bad. They were very discreet with their behavior, but Gen X women were discreet, but they begin to get even less discreet, because I think Kevin talked about that, how, there's certain things they wouldn't do, but they would do it on the low. But now it's just total debauchery. They don't have any care about how they conduct themselves. Joel in the middle, I want you to add clarity to this conversation, brother. What's your take on that?
Yeah, how y'all doing?
How you doing, brother?
Hello.
Yeah, for some reason my headset was acting up, so if I go deaf or something, it's because of this headset.
Mm-hmm.
But the question is are modern relationships toxic for men, or is that the question?
Yeah, so the question is, are men traveling abroad due to toxic relationships in Western culture? And I would say yes. I interviewed some young men. I'm in South America right now, and because I'm dedicated to the channel, I said I'm going to do a show. It's about 1:30 here in Brazil, and I'm going to be signing off in a few minutes. But because I love what I'm doing, I do love the people that are listening, I want to give you guys a show while I was overseas. But if you look at the beginning of the show, it shows men and young men that are millennials and Xennials saying that they grew up in either single-parent homes. But the women in America are very toxic. They feel like they don't get the outcomes, the femininity that they want. And so I want you to add clarity to the discussion. What do you see as it relates to the current women that we have here in America, in your opinion?
Yes, so I definitely do agree on that as well, because if people aren't aware, one of the largest growing demographics actually today when it comes to relationship is actually white men and Asian women. So they're actually getting together at an increasing rate over time. But this Western culture, it's poisonous to all women, to be honest, which is why, you know, even when you guys talk about the traveling abroad, you know, you have to be a certain type of man to lock down a certain type of woman. Because if you're a weak man here, you know, you're going to be a weak man abroad. And those women, women in general, they will take advantage of you if you're a weak man. So most of the time, the men that have the wherewithal to travel abroad, you know, they're not weak men. They tend not to be. But the guys that hold on to this fantasy, like that, they think, oh, the end all be all is to travel abroad and get another woman. No, if you're a weak man here, she's not going to submit to you.
I totally agree. Right, I agree.
And to add on to what you're saying, you're just talking about it from the relationship point of view, because I believe where we got to today was both intentional and unintentional. It started off, I believe, a little bit of both. It was kind of half and half. You know, of course, the Modernism report, you know, revealed that black women separated from us. Actually, BGS, he split it out. He actually said something that was very factual, which is, out of all women, black women have never been submissive. They've just been cooperating with us. And I believe that's very true, because there was never a point.
Johnson says it too.
Yeah, because there's never been a point where black men actually could rule their household like they needed to. They were always under white men. So, you know, there is a lot of truth to that, which is why eventually the Modernism report revealed what happened, because that was unnatural to, you know, the white women, to other women, because they were like, hey, when these men do this, the women tend to go under the men. But in the black community, it was the opposite. Now, to add on to just the relationship with the family, there's also what happens after this happens, which is now you have these same women that started this progress. They're holding back their sons. A lot of these women that went that route, that are single, their sons are their retirement plans. So now not only are the men being held back or in toxic relationships with the women they're trying to date and deal with, they're also in toxic relationships with their own mothers, whom are actually who are continuing to use them even after they've left the household. So there's also that dynamic.
Well, let me share something, Joel. You are 100% correct. I did a non-diagnostic consultation with a young man that was actually going through the same thing that you're talking about. And so what you're saying is correct. He's been placed in a very uncanny situation where he's had to be a father, to be like a son husband. And that's a sign of dysfunction. And also it's a sign of arrested development for a lot of our young men, because they don't have the opportunity to fully mature in their masculinity and go through all the successive stages of healthy psychosocial development. And because of that, it's causing a lot of men to become frustrated. It's causing a lot of men to more or less defer power. And it's true. You know, TJ, I think Ray asked a question, and TJ, I really appreciate your honesty and staying the course. I appreciate your honesty. But he asked the question, what did you expect a man to do if you weren't cooperating? You know, I say this: if a woman is not cooperating, some men get physically aggressive, but the ones that don't get physically aggressive, they'll get verbal. And so in relationships, it's about complementary relationships. He gives to her, she gives back to him. But TJ, what's your take on the question that's posed that what did you expect if you weren't following his program as a man? What's your take on that?
Well, you know what I didn't expect is to be degraded. Degraded, debased, belittled in front of my child. That's what I didn't expect.
That's fair. Yes, ma'am.
So for that question, that's what I didn't expect. Now, what I understand now that I didn't fully understand or appreciate then is my role as a wife. Like I've said before, I was married once before, but I was not a wife until now.
Right.
And that's understanding my role as a helpmeet, understanding that submission is not a 4-letter word. So understanding that it is actually a privilege to serve my husband.
Mm-hmm.
It is a privilege to be led.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I also understand that I did not foresee. I always said that I want to be led, but I didn't want to be controlled.
Mm-hmm.
There is a difference.
Mm-hmm.
So that is what I did not expect.
Let me add this, TJ, because you made a very powerful point, and I want to address that. You're very intellectual, but here's the caveat: there's a such thing called passive control, and there's a such thing called active control. Active control is more aggressive. Where he's tying the woman up to a bed, she doesn't have a voice. Because if you look at it through the lens of theology, the gospel actually says that let the husband shall rule over her. And so many times women equate or equivocate control to something bad. But watch this, TJ, Patrice, and the guys that are listening. When a child is acting up in school, that man is supposed to control, and that mom is supposed to control that child. In therapy and science, we use what's called control groups. But a lot of times we tend to equivocate the word control as something horrible. And so all control is not bad, just like all hate is not bad. But there should be a level of control in a relationship as long as it's not aggressive control. Aggressive control means you don't have a voice. He ties you up in the bedroom. He locks you up. He physically hurts you. That's aggressive control. But passive control is where he sets mandates as a man. He said, these are my standards. This is what I expect you to adhere to. He's not going to put his hands on you, but he's still controlling his environment. So I would say that men should control their women, but not in a negative, in a bad way. Because I'll give you an example. I like something you said when you was on your channel, TJ with Mosaic. You said when my husband come home, I get off and I take care of my man's needs. So that's passive control. He's not aggressively controlling you, but it is a form of passive control where he set parameters. Because in any behavioral science, there's such thing called controls. Controls are just modifiers that are added to a situation to get the outcomes that you desire. What's your take on that?
Oh, I absolutely agree. And I think one thing that is definitely different is that early on, we did not have the discussion and have a full understanding of what the role was. And I think that's very important. And again, it's not an excuse, but that is definitely something that I learned from the mistakes of the failed relationships, to include my failed marriage, to understand what we expected from each other. And we talked about that early on. And it's interesting because we talked about that early on, he don't even have to ask anything of me because I know already what is expected, and I do it. I even do things I not only do I do what he asked, I anticipate his needs before he asks me. So it's because of those standards, and that it's interesting because we communicate. I had an interview with my husband, and we talked about just that, what made me different from the other women he had dated prior to me. And he talked about that I had a standard, but he said that he was okay. That was perfect for him because he had a standard too. And we discussed it early on, and and I was with it. And still with it. And but like I said before, I think one of the scariest things for women, particularly starting in Generation X, I think, is the fear of not being able to take care of yourself. So by doing that, I pushed a man away, feeling like I could not fully surrender. But now it's funny because I think I shared with you, I have officially retired, but before my retirement was finalized on October 22nd, I hadn't gotten paid in like 3 months. But I never even noticed the first couple of weeks that I didn't get a paycheck. I didn't even notice, because my husband takes care of me, and the way that I was able to do is that I let go of feeling that I had to have my hands in everything, and it's scary if you've never had it, but it's such a relief when you let it happen.
Right, right. And you know, that's why I say so many women come into a relationship with a deficit mindset. Many are living through vicarious trauma from their mothers. And you know, some of their mothers got with dusty men that weren't good providers and protectors. But then sometimes their mothers out of rebellion left good, decent men that were factory workers and they were hardworking men. But they thought that they thought that the white man's ice water was cold. And they wanted to be like Miss Ann. Shout out to BGS. And so they got
shout
rid
out
of
to
good
David
men.
Carroll too for that line too.
Right, right. They got rid of good men, thinking that they will have an abundant supply from the man tree. PJ, Patrice gone, and then I want Joel in the middle to add some more clarity to it, and Mr. O. But what's your take on these women getting mad because they say they don't want a man to control them? Because controls are actually necessary, Patrice, in relationships. What's your take on this ongoing cognitive dissonance about control? Because a woman say, ain't no man gonna control me, but guess what? The government controls you. Your job controls you, because if you don't follow the mandates of that job, you'll lose your job. And as I said earlier, there's active control, and then there's passive control or aggressive control. The aggressive or active control tells that woman what she needs to do, and sometimes that active and aggressive control can be very dangerous. But passive control does not do anything to hurt the person, but it does set parameters. What's your take on that, Patrice?
I can agree with that, and I think what's wrong now with the younger generation is that they confused about that definition. You understand that, they only look at it as in the way of negative control, or control by rule of thumb, or laying a hammer down, or if I got to talk to you a certain way or put my hands on you a certain way. I think that that's the control that they have in mind when the word submission comes up. Now, for me, I am a boomer, as I said. So I grew up, by the time I was married, I was already groomed by my mom, who was a wife to my father. So I knew what that looked like. I knew that I was supposed to cook for my husband, clean, and all of this and that. But I was married for 10 years. Where the problem came in with my marriage is that he knew that I wanted to pursue my dreams in entertainment. And I followed those dreams. And when the opportunity came for me to tour for some very famous people, I took it. And that ended my marriage. I would come home from after being off for long tours, 2 or 3 months. And I get it. I understand. For him, he thought he can deal with it. He couldn't deal with it. I tried, I stayed home as much as I could, but I had my dream that I wanted to pursue as I was getting older, the opportunities to be in the entertainment industry. So I did that, and it slowly dissolved. Listen, I have nothing to say about that black man I was married to for 10 years. He was he was a good guy. Right. It was just that it was time and space and things that happened in that marriage that dissolved that marriage.
And so many women search after vanities only to, when they get in their latter years, regretting that. Because a lot of times, Patrice, you in the music career, and I'm not saying you did anything wrong, but I'm sure there were times you were tempted to do things, commit infidelity. 3 months on the road is a long time away from your man. And see, the problem is, guys, most women have forgotten that they call themselves Christians, but in theology, the gospel said that the woman was made for man. And made for man means she was made to serve him, bone of his bone, flesh of his flesh. When the woman serves the man turns around and serves the woman. But, now women don't think they got to serve a man. What's your take on that, Patrice? Do you feel like you more or less aborted a great opportunity to have a great man? And did you sit back sometime and have regrets about your decision?
I have no regrets about my decision. I do, and I had this discussion with my husband later on, because I think it was times when he was telling me things that I was not listening. Because when I had a conversation with him later on, and I look back in retrospect, he was right about certain things that I didn't listen to him that I wish I had. So those were things that I later realized, and I actually went back and apologized to him and asked for his forgiveness. He's remarried now. I'm happy for him. But I don't regret the decision that I made to pursue my dreams. I don't. But there are things in the marriage that I realized that I could have done better. I'll just say that.
Right,
that
right.
you know what I mean? That I could have done better. I could have listened more, you know, and I know that there were times when literally I knew it was none but God that forced me to go home because things would happen in my family and I would have to literally leave the tour and fly back home to deal with something. So there were times, you know, that I said, okay, I got to drop this money, you know, this money don't mean that much. And this contract, I got to breach it and I just won't get paid. And I got to go home and I got to deal with this emergency. But then there was times, you know, I have a son, you know, that I missed a lot of things, you know, growing up with him growing up, you know, and I had to deal with that once my son became a certain age because he started rebelling. So there were things that definitely I have regrets about, but the decision that I made for my career, I don't regret that at all.
I appreciate your honesty, but you know what, Patrice, when a person gets on their deathbed, the most important thing the person is going to be more or less reflecting on his family. They're not going to care about the accolades. They're not going to care about the money they made. They're not going to care about their career. The main thing that most people are going to be looking forward to is their family. And it baffles me that we minimize the importance of family in this society, because family, in my opinion, is one of the 7 steps that a man must go through in order to become optimized. It's actually number 1. And we tend to minimize the importance of family. How many women, you know, guys that are listening, are going to die, you know, by themselves in the home? You know, they might be found, you know, with a dog eating them after they've died. And I know that's graphic, but it's a reality. There have been cases where they found women and men dead, and the animals were eating them alive. Not eating them alive.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. I mean, now at this stage and age, you're absolutely right. Family is absolutely, and I tell my nieces, you know, while they're young and still have the opportunity, that don't blow the opportunity to become wives and have and don't spend so much time, you know, with work and giving, you know, somebody else that type of time. You know, when you give more time into your boss than you do to finding a mate or leaving yourself open to that for that mate to come in your life. You know, don't do the things that a lot of things in the way that I did them. And, you know, the ones that have children, don't neglect the children, especially because they're single women. They're single women. So you don't neglect the children when there's no man there. You have to be there.
I'm sorry. County True. See, this is what happened back in the 1910s, 20s, and 30s. This Mr. O.
Hold up, Joel. I'll let you pop in. I know Joel. I'm not Joel, Mr. O. Joel, what do you want to add to the discussion? Then, Mr. O, I want you to pop back in. But go ahead, Joel.
Yeah, forgive me if you hear some wind. I'm outside right now. But I think it's complicated because it's like you don't want to tell somebody that they don't want to follow their dreams, but the problem is a lot of the dreams are just that. They're dreams. They're not a reality. You know, these women think that they can do everything and have everything. And you know, I watched that thing with Kevin Samuels today, that premiere, and I planned on doing, I already said I was going to plan on doing a breakdown of the whole Brittany Renner situation, because in her very situation, you know, there's the whole thing where people are calling her a gold digger, et cetera, and I'm just like, no, she literally said who she was. But there was one thing I always suspected, and I'm glad she did say this, but I was like, you know what, I think when she did that whole post where she was like, okay, you know, housewife and a hoe, she said I'm both. I said, you know what, I actually believe it. I believe it because you know what I think? I think when she was with that guy, which was the PJ thing, she was playing the part. She was the housewife. And guess what? Come to find out, she said exactly that. She said, yeah, I was the housewife. She did this, this, and that. But the problem was she reverted back to her old self because there was a conflict in herself. She thought that rebel in her, which of course, you know, Kevin Samuels, he was talking about it, he thought she was thinking that rebel that was in her was just part of her. Therefore, she was like, she was kind of resistant to the change. And of course, you know, the whole, you know, I don't want to get to the whole cheating crap or whatever, but, you know, there were some additions to that. But like, she was literally fighting her natural urge to kind of want to, you know, get with her man whom she had this child with. You know what I'm saying? So I thought that was very interesting.
Yes, sir. Right. Go ahead, Mr. O. You got a lot of passion, man. I know you're very passionate about the issue that we have. In about 5 minutes, we're going to sign off. It's 2:00 in South America, man. You know.
And now this is what I get mad at so-called black men, and this is what they try to portray us in the beginning. They say that we're basically emotionalist. What we are emotionalist co-individuals, but yet y'all do still be helping out these single moms. Y'all still help out these broken women, and I'm telling y'all, this is what has to be ceased. Y'all have to ignore them. You have to stop having sex with them. Stop taking care of them. I need them. And I told I'm on various panels. They call me a nihilist, but I guarantee that my nihilist view actually works. If you keep on helping out the ones that so-called do not contribute to society, all you doing is keep on adding band-aid after band-aid after band-aid, and the wound will never heal. So I hate to say it, and a lot of brothers and some sisters don't even got in their mind that some people actually got to be left to their lonely and die alone, literally with no help. But no,
I see what you're saying, Mr. O. You're saying that they got to suffer from the recompense of their error. You're saying that, you know, based on the gospel, that we all reap what you sow. And if a man don't come to their rescue, then that's the recompense of their error for putting other things ahead of family. Am I correct?
Yes, I am. Hey, look, this is why I want to go back to the dudes and women so-called want to talk about, well, my grandparents was together for 40, 50 some years. My grandma, like, okay, what year was your grandma born? Okay, she was born in 19, let's give a day like 1930. Let's use the silent generation, since that's the last good big mama that this country has ever seen. Now, you go ahead, if they still around, I want you to go ahead and ask that woman about her grandma. And I guarantee she gonna be like, I never knew her. Yeah, why? Because she was a what? A hoe. And why do you don't know her? Because the greatest generation that might be her parents, they was like, we cannot bring this old slave Negro stuff into our home and into our family because it's gonna corrupt our child. And that's why the silent generation was more loyal. They was the so-called good Susie homemakers and all that good stuff because they didn't have the the flapper girl of the 1910s, 1920s grandma to corrupt her. Unfortunately, this is what happened though. That same woman, that silent generation woman, she's not really instilled into her daughter about her grandma because she was trying to save face. And this is what happened. Her own daughter, the baby born woman, became just like her grandmama unbeknownst to her. And now we have a whole repeat. Now, us millennial men and Xennial men, we have a conundrum, a quagmire at our hands. Do we go ahead and just bury the hatchet, you know what I'm saying, say kumbaya, take these sisters, even though they already said they are agents of chaos, they are agent provocateurs, race traders, and baby killers. And you want to go ahead and just go ahead and say, oh, I forgive you, sister, we should go ahead and do that? Or B, would you go ahead, take your passport, take your sanity, take your health, go out to the four corners of the earth, or you can still stay here. There's still some good women here, but the thing is, they dwindling in numbers, and there's some of them already not even born yet, and some of them.
Okay, excuse me. Lastly, I'm gonna go ahead and say this before I go. I think to Mr. O, I think it's a situation where you have to do all three, possibly. I think that is one of the reasons that women like myself and Patrice, and to include my daughter, are in these YouTube streets to share with women, young and seasoned, if you want better, this is how you can get better.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
And they're hearing it from a woman who messed it up a lot, showed my daughter the wrong things, but whose daughter was able to look past it and say, I want something different, and went to seek something different, and is married and just had her first baby. And then you have a woman like myself who was able to get my act together, get a revelation, do the work in a sense of getting some therapy to deal with the trauma, so I could prepare to meet my husband at 51. So that's how, that's how we're going to do it. It's not going to, we may not sing kumbaya, in my lifetime, but at least some of us will.
Well, you know what? I like the fact, TJ, that you're at least trying. You've owned up to a lot of your malfeasance, your social malfeasance. You said I made some bad choices, and I admire you for that. At least you have the credibility, the testament, fortitude to talk about the recompense of your error. But at the same time, I do respect men like Mr. O and Joel, these young brothers, because Kevin Samuels did a show recently saying that, millennial and Xennial men got to be understanding, and a lot of these women have had a lot of sex, and
Man, forget, and that's why I stopped listening. Sorry.
Hold on, Mr. O, because I want to, and listen, I understand what Kevin was saying. I like Kevin; he got some good points, but I think there's a slap in the face to 29% of men that are virgins. I think it's a slap in the face to the percentage of men that have waited. Men by nature are very territorial when it comes down to their women, and yes, you got to be understanding that they have some fun, but what man in his right mind want to deal with a woman that's had a lot of fun, 40, 50, 100 men, and he's supposed to make that his wife? I don't understand that. And then you try to shame men for traveling abroad, and or not shame them, but say, those are not really realistic options, but they are realistic options. And these young men, the Xennials and millennials, because ask yourself the question, Patrice and TJ, if you raise your son to be a noble man, upstanding man, will any of you ladies want your man to get with a woman that's been with, had 100 men, 50 to 100 men, and 5 kids by 5 different men? Would you guys want that for your son?
No.
Exactly. So why do women get so mad when men say they don't want a woman that's been ran through or got a bunch of kids by different men? I said earlier that in fair exchange, there is no robbery. Masculine men are not going to tolerate that kind of BS. The more masculine a man is, the less he's going to tolerate. Most masculine men want their women to be as pure as possible. We know women got past, but the more pure she is, the better. And see, that's the kind of toxicity that's permeating in our society, where men are expected to adhere to traditional roles. He still got to be traditional, a provider, protector, and whatever. But at the same time, the woman can be modern. And so to the millennial men like Mr. O and Joel in the middle, how does that make you guys feel when you hear, like I say, I like some of the things Kevin say, but Joel in the middle, when you hear men say that young men like yourself got to settle for women that have had a lot of fun, they got kids about multiple men, and you just got to be understanding, I'll say the hell with that. You should have to be understanding of a damn thing. I do understand that, people got to pass, but a man should also have the right to say, listen, I need to know your past, and I'm going to invest in you. And if you find out you lied, then we're going to have issues, because you shouldn't go in a relationship lying. If you got so many things in your past, because let me ask you guys a question, TJ and Patrice. If you got with a man and you asked him, have you ever slept with a man, and you found out he lied, would you still stay with that man, Patrice and TJ?
No.
Absolutely not.
How about you, Patrice?
I'm the one who said absolutely not.
And I said no. I think me and Patrice said it at the same time.
Right. And so guess what, TJ and Patrice? I talked about this on the Guapo show. It's a reverse dynamic. It's called the penetration principle. Men by nature are not wired to have the thoughts of other men entering the woman that they love. It goes against our psychic hard drive. And so when you hear a man telling a man he just got to be understanding that the woman is supposed to be the mother of his kids. I mean, the stuff American men sell for. We have, and these women go around talking about they're selling. No, a lot of these brothers are selling. And so on the flip side, when they come down to most women are repelled by a man having a homosexual relationship, because they want a man they can look up to, and they can't have the thought of another man entering their future man. Am I right, ladies? Yes or no?
Absolutely right.
All right,
that is correct.
But on the flip side, men can accept the fact that maybe some men can, not all, but a small percentage, he ain't gonna be as threatened by a woman that maybe had a dalliance dance with another woman. He might can accept it a little bit, but at the same time, a masculine man is gonna have a hard time having the thought of the woman that's supposed to be his woman, having a bunch of fun with the alpha males from college, and they blowing her back out and she's screaming and moaning. Most guys can't handle that. I know I can't handle it. It goes against my hard drive. And I can't take you serious for my woman, because I'm very dominant. And so what men don't understand is this: we're teaching our men to be suckers. We understand that people got a pass. But to the young men that are listening, to the Mr. O's and I know Mr. O's very passionate, and Joel in the middle, starting with Joel, what's your take on this? Men should just be understanding that they had a lot of fun. What's your take on that?
Well, go ahead.
Oh, you talking about me?
Yes, sir. Uh-huh.
Yeah, well, I think there is a bit of misinterpretation on what was said, because when he's saying be understanding, he's talking about the generation that's coming up today, because this generation of women were lied to. They were fed the lie. Like, they didn't have the wherewithal to kind of know everything, per se, whereas prior generations did. So those women, however, they opted to do what they did. Whereas the women today, unfortunately, they were just, shunned into the world, unfortunately. When he was talking about, also when Kev was talking about the whole, it's not a viable option, he was talking about for the men at the bell curve, which is the majority of men, which is like the guys making $40,000 a year, that kind of thing.
What's not a viable option, Jordan Miller? Explain.
Well, what he was talking about was most men don't make the money to kind of do that thing. Like they don't I don't know too many guys that will literally, unless you make a like above average income, the average, black man makes 42,000. They're not trying to travel abroad to find a wife. You know what I'm saying?
But why should they have to settle for mediocrity? If they listen, if a man
no, he never said settle. He never said settle. He just said be understanding.
I understand that, but okay. But on the flip side, should women be understanding of a man making less? Should women be understanding of a man to say he's not going to pay all the bills? Do you see where I'm going? There's almost like we expect certain things for the men, but we don't expect it for the women. And what I'm saying is that men are frustrated because of that. He was saying that men got to be understanding. And I say yes and no. To some degree, men got to understand that women are more moderate.
I say no.
Yeah, right. But at the same time, why should a man have to suffer and deal with, I think he called it Madonna whore complex, but deal with a woman that's had a lot of fun. And that's subjective. And so I got to make this woman my wife, but at the same time, she would never accept you if you had a sexual liaison with a man. And so some women say, well, it's not the same, but it is the same. It's not the same in act. It's not the same in ideal, but it's the same in principle. And it's the penetration principle. And masculine men have a hard time having the thought of other men touching their woman. That's why I wish women will understand how men think. We never ask men how they think. We just tell men to accept it. And to me, that's not good to male mental health. Dr. Drew Pinsky, he talked about it. He said that men are not wired that way, and they're not wired. And I can hear from divorcing men like Mr. O that he's pissed off about it. Mr. O, go ahead, brother, and then I'm gonna sign off in a few. And Patrice, I love you, and also TJ. I love you guys for coming in and adding clarity to this conversation, because I'm not having these shows to attack women. I love women, but sisters, y'all got to be understanding that some of these young men are angry. They don't hate black women, but they are sick of the BS they have to deal with. So I thank you guys for being willing to listen in men's spaces where we're being unapologetically masculine and we're having this poignant conversation. But go ahead, Mr. O.
Well, thank you again, Mr. Kosher. Now, I'm going to say like this. Now, like I said, my father is from the silent generation, so there's basically almost 2 to 3 different generations between him and I. So I have older siblings, both from the boomer and Generation X. And my sister on my mom's side, she's Generation X. So I'm going to say like this. I seen all 3 patterns of all 3 women from each generation. And I told these millennial women a long time ago, if y'all come with that stuff, I will be happily to die alone. Look, I will happily go ahead and chill with my fucking chocolate almond milk, my PS4, with my classical music, with my books Think Grow Rich, 48 Laws of Power, and of course my favorite, the Holy Bible, before I let any one of y'all drive me crazy, like I seen what happened to them silent generation men, the same thing that happened to them baby boom men, and the same thing that's happened to these Generation X and millennial men. Because I hate to tell y'all ladies, y'all want powerful men. Guess that one little thing about powerful men? They're all off. Yeah. Yeah. Try to be you want a powerful man? You want Adolf Hitler? Do you want Attila the Hun? Do you want Hannibal? Can you actually be a submissive wife to Saddam Hussein? Them powerful men, right? But y'all ain't gonna accept them kind of men, right? Why? Because you can't rule over them. So go ahead and tell you this. Let me ask you this. So the good man that want to listen to you, take care of you, wants to actually impregnate you and wants you to be the mother of his children, y'all look down upon a man, call that man boring. Oh, especially about that 42K. Oh, look, society's over with. Women will always go after for the men that have the most money.
You there? Hello.
I'm sorry about that. I was still at work, but let me go ahead and tie this up before I go ahead and do this. The thing is about the silent generation men and women is that they did not tell the kids that do not follow our pattern because look, we didn't have good examples. Because look, some generation had no good examples of what a parent in marriage was, and now we stuck in this conundrum. And I told people a long time ago, I'll happily die alone before I let one of these women drive me crazy and with their bad kids. So yeah, ladies, look, I'm not the one that mess with because I'm not playing stepdaddy, and I got my own money, got my own life to live. So that's the only thing I can say. Y'all go ahead, have a good night.
No doubt, brother. I appreciate the conversation. So you know, we're gonna sign off in a minute. Once again, I really appreciate Patrice and TJ Mosaic, and also the young buck Joel in the middle. I really appreciate that. He sounds like a Xennial or a millennial. But real quick, TJ, what did you get from the conversation as I'm about to sign off? How was this conversation helpful? And I really appreciate you guys adding clarity for women that have evolved.
Well, it's helpful to provide, additional understanding of how men are feeling. And to the extent that many are considering going abroad. And I have to be honest, before really tuning into YouTube, I really did not have an understanding or full appreciation of how bad things had gotten. And what I knew before I married, that it was difficult for me to connect, but I did not fully know the underlying or the underpinnings of how we got here. And so hearing the different points of view on the manosphere, I do have a better understanding. And I think that's one of the reasons, again, that I started the channel, because, it was a scary thought for me to consider as I was going into my late 40s and 50s that I would be by myself when I knew I didn't want to be. And more importantly, that I felt myself becoming this kind of person that I said I never wanted to be, which was a bitter woman. So I had to, so I want to help. So these young women won't find themselves, the best years of their life, and they're playing around with them, and they look up and then they're in their 40s. And even if they do have their kids, when your kids go off and have their life, you're going to be by yourself.
Right. I totally agree. You're right. And the sad thing is about it, Patrice and TJ, many of these women don't even listen to y'all. They don't listen to y'all. They're hard hit. Don't listen to y'all. I'm talking about elders. The gospel said that the older women teach the younger women, but they don't even listen to y'all. They're very rebellious. And it's unfortunate. Patrice, if you don't mind saying, what group did you sing with? If you feel comfortable, if not, don't worry about it. But
I'm sorry.
I said, if you don't mind saying, what group did you sing with? If you don't feel comfortable talking about it, no problem.
Oh no, I just did an interview recently on someone's YouTube. I toured with Gladys Knight. I background singing for Brian McKnight, Bobby Caldwell. Yeah.
Oh wow, that's powerful. Wow. So you were a star.
Well, no, I'm not a star. They the stars. I was just a background singer.
Yeah, but just to be in their presence was powerful. You had a talent there. So
Thank you.
Had to get you a bit.
But yeah, I would just say that the 8 months that I've been on these panels since I discovered YouTube and really gotten into it, I agree totally with what TJ said. I did not know that it was this bad in our community. I did not know that the generation gap was that awful. I knew that entertainment played a big part in it. I did know that because I saw things unfolding that was just detrimental to our health, to our communities, and everything that I know I was raised, on to believe, the morals, the values, the scruples, the things of that nature. I don't see it anymore. It's not in the music. It's not in the behavior. It's not in the way they dress. It's not in anything culturally in the Black community is very, very toxic right now. So I made a conscious decision to try to be a part of that change as much as I can, by getting on panels, by listening to the younger generation, especially the men, because I saw a lot of toxic behavior in my aunties and some of my girlfriends and my nieces, and I know that it is there. It is true. The women are causing a lot of this. And I tell my nieces and I tell other women on the panel, yeah, you will die and be alone with a dog or a cat or whatever if you don't change. Like, you literally, it has to be a change of a mindset, and you have to be open to it. Like I was open to it. Like I'm still being open to it, listening, trying to bring my experiences to the table to talk about my experiences in relationships and my marriage, things that I learned, mistakes that I made, as well as learn from the younger generation.
No, I totally agree. I totally agree. And, you know, these discussions are very important. What negative feedback have you been getting? Not Patrice, I mean, Patrice, when you try to teach the younger women, what has been the negative feedback you've gotten?
Listen, I've been getting good feedback from the guys. I get more pushback from the young ladies.
You see my point? Yes.
Listen, do you remember when that fresh and fit thing happened? The fresh and fit situation, and the young lady was on the lead attorney's she cammed up on the lead attorney, and I was on the panel, and I told her that I will be more than happy to reach out to her, to mentor her, to talk to her when that whole fresh and fit thing came out. I reached out to her on her IG channel. She totally shut me down and blocked me. So I get the resistance more from the young ladies. Listen, I talk to my own nieces and they don't want to hear it. It's like, I don't know, cousins. It's like they're in their 20s and 30s. I'm like, okay.
So now, Patrice, now you see what the men are talking about. And so when I hear people trying to tell men to be okay with selling with these toxic women in America, and that, you know, almost like, well, you know, you can't afford it to get a passport. I like what Mr. O said. Mr. O is saying, like Patrick Henry said during the American Revolution, give me liberty or give me death. Because a lot of men are being taxated without representation, and it's the mental breaking of the American man. And so men are getting sick of this issue. They're getting tired of it. And as a therapist, I'm going to do everything in my power to empower these brothers. I'm going to do everything in my power. I believe it's been a divine mandate to empower young black men so they can get better outcomes and be better versions of themselves. I don't want to see a young man have to suffer through mediocrity or get with a woman that's using him as a resource after she's had all her fun. And then, you know, she talking to exes behind his back, or when he's working hard, busting his ass, she getting her back blown out because her body is used to a certain type of man. And it happens to the point, Patrice, that men end up killing themselves because they can't handle the thought of being betrayed. And it's sad that so many men have to suffer in silence. And, you know, the church won't speak up.
Absolutely. The church definitely let us down. I agree. Yes, the black church did too.
Some of these PUAs, these pickup artists, they don't care about these men. They're concerned about a profit. And it burns me up because, you know, no man should have to suffer in silence. No man should have to deal with miscreants, you know, or women that don't, you know, empower them. Men want feminine women to love them and be loyal. They want a woman that's loyal to them. They don't want a woman that got a bunch of skeletons in the closet and hiding stuff. Because
the culture, if I may interject, it's gotten so bad within the church that a lot of the black men have ran away and a lot of the black women have turned to witchcraft.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, they have. Right. You are exactly right, Patrice. We got to do a show on that at some point, but they have turned to witchcraft. And it's all part of the controlling spirit. And part of it, the reason they turn to witchcraft, because the church have not manifest themselves as the sons of God. I'm a firm believer that, you know, that the Bible is very red pill. It's very red aware. And it's to the point that a lot of men are saying, you know what, give me liberty or give me death. And I don't blame Mr. O for saying that he'd rather die than to deal with some of these violent and very toxic women. Joel, in the middle, before you leave, what would you like to add to the discussion? And so to the guys that are listening, thank you guys that are listening. Like I told you guys, I love you guys. I'm actually here in South America. And then shout out to my man, who is it? They sent me a $5 super chat. Shout out to Millennial Dad. Thank you, brother, showing support for the platform and join this conversation. Millennial Dad, he's a good man. Him and I had a great conversation before I traveled abroad. So thank you for the $5 super chat, guys. And to the 36 that are listening, if you have not donated, share the content. If you can't donate, please just share the content. Share the content with 5 people. TJ, you always share my content. I appreciate it. Share the content, TJ. Share Patrice. Tell like-minded young men, Patrice and TJ, about this platform so that I can continue to empower them. So share the content if you guys don't have anything to share, because we're living a very critical time. And I want men to be empowered. So, Joel, in the middle, what did you get from the conversation in the show? Real quick, I'm about to sign off. It's late. It's about 2 o'clock in South America, and I'm sleepy. So, what did you get from it, real quick, Joel, in the middle, real quick, brother?
Well, I will say that I'm for the whole non-suffering of men, and especially black men in general. Don't don't subject yourself to the gunocracy. Don't think you have to be a martyr to try to make an example, and don't fall for this. Real men do this BS. You know,
Yes, sir.
you know what I'm saying? Like, do what you got to do to get your family.
Yes,
and when I was talking about the misinterpretation with the Kevin Samuels thing, it's just I would like for more black men to perform to the level where they can travel abroad and be respected, et cetera, et cetera. So to the black men out there, if you are at that average bracket, strive to do better. You know what I'm saying? And I'll say it like, actually, I was having a conversation with MTR a couple months ago, and it was in his Discord, and it was just a private conversation. And mind you, this young brother, he's been against the whole marriage thing, but he came out and had a conversation with us, and he was like, okay, what can we do to kind of correct, you know, the things going on in society? And I'm not gonna lie, I just came out and you know, people were talking about, oh, we can do this, we can do that, and I was like, and I came straight out and I was like, you know what, bro? Some people are just too far gone, and they're just gonna have to die off. Like some of these people, they're just so far gone. There is no fixing them, so they're just gonna have to die. Agree. They're gonna have to die off, and we're gonna have to try to save who we can, which is the future generations.
I totally agree. There's an old saying in theology that said, "Break up that fallow ground." The current ground in America is very fallow. I mean, it's hard. It's not suitable for planting seed. The soil is contaminated. The soil is toxic. And, you know, just like the food over here, if you used to eat processed American food, when you come abroad, you'll get the bubbles, you know, because the food here is very rich and is a lot more cleaner. And so you'll literally get a case of diarrhea for eating food over here because it's more healthier. And so just like you have to do a deconstruction as it relates to your diet, many men are going to have to say, you know what, just like in the Old Testament, they had to kill off the giants in order to have a new generation where the people were not toxic and they were not more or less infiltrated with negative energy. So it's going to take a generation or two to die off if the world is still here. I don't see it. It's gotten so horrible now. I don't see it. It'll probably be another 50 to 100 years from now if you believe in the Bible, God and came back. But I don't see it happening in my lifetime, unfortunately. And my heart goes out to millennials and Xennials that are decent, hardworking men, but they get treated like crap. They get treated like they're damn less than because they make $40,000, $42,000 a year. They feel like it's never enough. They feel like they're inadequate. And when you hear the young man that I did an interview with called Global Mall, go check out his YouTube channel. He said he's a truck driver. He owned trucks. And he said he still couldn't get the kind of respect that he deserved because so many modern women are so dysfunctional, disrespectful, and it's unfortunate. A truck driver, the man making probably over $100,000 a year. And that's why I don't believe that when people say, well, you got to pay all the bills for her to submit. I said, that's BS. You can pay all the bills and she'll still cheat on you. You can pay all the bills and she'll still leave you for the next best thing. So all that about just pay all the bills and she'll submit, that's BS. For some women, it's true. But in general, with most modern women, I don't think that's true. I think that's really just foolishness because you got high-end men getting divorces because just like I heard. Yes, ma'am. I know you got to go.
No, I was just going to say real quick, you struck a chord with me because you know my husband's a truck driver. So, and that's another reason why I'm in these YouTube streets. You know, shoot, man, I do anything for my truck driving husband. And I
respect that, right? And
I'm going to tell these young ladies quit. As a matter of fact, I'm about to do a broadcast on Saturday. Say, y'all quit playing yourself.
Truck drivers get baked.
And they forget they just hardworking men.
Yes,
period.
They are. And my stepfather was a truck driver. My stepfather was, so you're absolutely right. He was in local 705. Shout out to my stepdaddy.
Y'all see? Now, ladies, now look, I'm a 35-year-old man. I got to get me a second job. I got a job, always kept one, but now I got to get two because of this inflation that's coming upon us. Now I'm basically not even available to so-called date. I got to work basically 14 hours a day now, so I'm not doing none of this day now crap because all that ain't nothing but BS, gaslighting, lies, and all that deceitful stuff. So when women come to me in public and they be asking me about men in relationships, I'll be like, I cannot tell you because I have not seen a good viable, what you call a relationship. I'm talking about you actually invest into that person, want to learn from that person, actually build with that person. I haven't seen that in the last 30-something years. And I actually, like I said before, I got caught off because of my shift was ending. Now, look, I have 3 examples of women from each generation in my family. You know what I'm saying? Cousins and all. And I see how they treat their men. And I see my cousins. These men are basically, they want to stick up that Tupac flag, Talking about, well, she's a black queen. Oh, no, Raj. I mean, yeah, we some gangbanging thug ass niggas. Well, we just love too. All them niggas, man. I was like, man, you know what? I actually had to say, like, look, I had to write off both sides of my family, and basically, I'm by myself. I mean, it is what it is. And a lot of people think I'm weird for that. I was like, no, because I refuse to contribute and uphold dysfunctional behavior. I don't want to hang around it. I don't want to talk to people that want to do it, including my own family. I want to prove a point. That's why I moved the way I moved. A lot of people can't accept it. They say, man, you a little bit too serious, too strong. I say, you know what? Holler at me next year in 2022 when we might be going through a Great Depression. We might be going through a food desert. And I want to see how long your wife gonna be all up on you, trying to love you, all that good stuff before she want to go ahead and try to take you out. Like, because here in Chicago, they actually made us men here in Chicago. Listen to me, y'all. They made us good men here in Chicago. We are now vigilantes.
Mm-hmm.
Do you understand what I just said? Us good black men that go to work every day, now we became vigilantes because we gotta protect ourselves against women, children, and thugs here.
Yeah, I see your point, man. And my heart goes out to young brothers like you, Mr. O, growing up in the rough cities, in the inner city of Chicago. And no disrespect to Chi-Town brothers, but it's a war zone. And it's unfortunately young men that grow up in these horrible environments because some of our women got with these dusty dudes that were broken, and they were broken themselves. And, it's sad that we tend to accost all black men for the malfeasance of dusty guys. And some white-collar men as well, because, people always talking about the thugs and the bad boys, but there have been some white-collar professional men that got women pregnant and ran off too. So it ain't just the dusty ones. It's some dusty white-collar guys too. Some of these white-collar guys got some ring around the collar. They got dust on their collars for not taking care of their kids. And to the young men that are listening for non-diagnostic consultation, shout out to my man Tim Howard. Tim is always on game. I really love Tim. But for non-diagnostic consultation, email me at coachingclinician@gmail.com. I have been helping a lot of young black men and also older men in private. And a non-diagnostic consultation is not a clinical diagnosis, but it can give you parameters around the mental health pathologies that you are experiencing. So please check me out. I'm going to get a members-only channel at some point. I'm going to have an exclusive Patreon. And so to the guys that are listening, if you know anything about Patreon and Discord, hit me at coachclinician@gmail.com and give me some pointers, because I'm definitely trying to start giving you guys exclusive content, but it'll only be for Patreon members because I got some fire for your mind, and I don't want to see men suffer in silence. And shout out to TJ. I was laughing at her when she was with her husband. She said fire for your mind. To Millennial Dad for the $5 super chat. Thank you, brother. For my generation, the hardworking blue-collar guys are seen as the fallback for women as their whole face. And you're right. You're 100% correct. And no man don't want to get leftovers. Men want women that have more or less maintained their virtue and kept themselves as pure as possible. We know people are not perfect, but they have kept themselves pure as possible because they value themselves and they value their future husband. Because they really value their future husband, they won't be giving their bodies to multiple men and trying to quote unquote have fun. And then after they have fun and get damaged by these clown dudes, then they want to come back and say, I'm a good man, only to divorce him because her body is used to a certain type of man.
They used to joke about that in high school, literally,
right.
To me, coach. They literally used to joke about that in high school in my neighborhood, literally 15, 20 years ago. And now these are the exact same chicks that have the fun with the gangbangers, the D-boys, the scammers, even the white-collar dudes. They come to so-called broke dudes like me talking about, you always been a good dude. You always had your father was a good guy in your life and everything. I know that kind of rubbed off on you. Maybe you could come in. And guess what? That first happened to me a couple years ago. I said, no. Get away from me. We was never even friends. You would hang with my homeboy, and then my other homeboy, then my other homeboy. You didn't want to give me none. So why would I want to go ahead and take you now? She actually had to look. She had to look. Yeah, she had to look shock on her face, like she never heard that before, and now she actually out here looking real worse than that. And I hate to say it. I hate to say I'll laugh. If it made me feel good inside, because I actually said, you know what? Hey, it is what it is. She made her decision. Now she got to live with it. That's what.
Listen, real quick, and I agree with Agma World, and I know Mr. O, you didn't mean anything by it, but I don't like the N-word either. I think the N-word is a personification of a negative pathology. And so
I'm sorry about that.
No, you're okay, brother. I know you mean well. I know you're a millennial, and sometimes y'all just talk, but I don't think black people should use that word. It's very degrading, and we can't tell white folks not to call it the N-word when the N-word is really a personification of a Southern colloquialism. In the South, they actually used to say the GGA word, but in the North it was the ER. So it was this, in the South there's a Southern drawl, so they were just lazy. So they would say the GGA word. So as Black people, we need to get away from using that word because it's not no term of endearment. It's a sign of ignorance, in my opinion. And so as Black men, we need to get away from that because we're actually denigrating our ancestors, in my opinion. We can call each other brothers and kings or whatever, but let's get away from that because Black folks are the only one to do that. But I know you mean well, man. But and so I know your heart is right. But in the future, please refrain from using that. But Mr. Old Man, I love your fire, man. You very passionate, man. I love that passion in your heart, man. And I want you to continue to work on yourself, son. I'm 50 years old. You're probably like a little son to me. Well, not quite a son, but almost a son. I mean, like a teenage dad. But I want you to keep.
I got a 54-year-old brother, so hey, you could be like my uncle.
Well, I'll be your uncle, man. I want you to continue to work on yourself, love yourself, never give up on your dreams. And to all the other young men on the list, I want you guys to continue to love yourself as well. Joy in the middle, I think you gave your last call. What did you get from the show real quick? And I'm gonna sign off. I got to get off because it's late. I got to get to bed. But Joel in the middle, what did you get from the show real quick? Hello? Joel in the middle, child. What did you get from the show, brother? Real quick.
Oh, yeah. Like I said, I would not subject any man to the current Western, way of doing things. Like, yeah, guys, do what you got to do to get the best outcome you can. If that means traveling abroad, by all means, do it. Do what you got to do.
No doubt, man. And once again, guys, I love you guys. I'm here in South America, in the sunny plains of Brazil, where the African slave trade actually intersected. Not too far from Africa. South America is right beside Africa. So your ancestors are in this country, and I'll be back in the States at some point. But once again, guys, I love you guys, man. And, as I've said in the past, say it again.
Yes.
Go ahead, Joel. Go ahead. I mean, go ahead, Mr. I'm about to sign off.
No, I might have to come up there and join you in Brazil because America is not good enough for me.
Well, listen, man, just work on yourself, man. Love yourself and realize that there's greater letter. But I'm about to sign off. I'm going to take you guys off and I'm going to play this theme. And once again, mad love to Patrice. Patrice, let's come back on again. I love your insight there. And
absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, dear. I appreciate you coming on. Thank you, dear. And so, as I told you guys, there are 7 steps that a man must go through in order to become optimized. And world travel is the great elixir to having men become better. Thank you guys for donating to the channel, to all the people that donate to the Cash App and also to the Super Chat. This has been a great show. I'll be seeing you guys soon. I'll be touching down back in the States at some point. Shout out to my man, Tim Howard. Tim Howard is always on point. Shout out to Gail whenever she's on. I love Gail. And guys, we're about to sign off. This has been a great show. And, as I said, if it ain't 7, it ain't kosher. If it ain't kosher, it ain't right. It's been a good show and signing off and good night, guys.
4 in the morning, you got me up all cause you need to talk. To 4 in the evening, wanna break up, say that you've had enough. I'm tired of talking, again and again, argue about everything. You are my darling, this kiss and make up, I know you wanna touch. You call me every night, call me every day, I just wanna get you alone now. Trust me when I say